walk back and windows cry. Boundaries drawn under heavy skies. In the space between the set and scene lies a story that cuts unclean. Hold the ties that thread entangled tight. Diplomatic dances in the cold moonlight. A step misplaced and the stage does sway. Persona non grata carried far away. Persona non grata carried far away.
I'm saying bye to all the lies and all the times you cried, saying that I wasn't right, yet I was right by your side. You manipulator, playing games, your friends commentators, and I don't know what you say about our private conversations, but it's got them hating. Thanks to all the rumors you be claiming. It's cool, I'm done with you, so they can throw you a celebration. You gon' hate it when you see me with somebody living better. I'm trying to tell you that me just doing me gon' have you jealous.
That button didn't work again. Got to work on that button, not working properly. Welcome back to the program, folks. Good morning for Europe, Africa, and points further east. And good evening to those still trapped in the past. It's still April Fool's Day here. Well, didn't tell any April Fool's jokes today, did we? Welcome back to the program, folks. Pleasure to have you join me once again. It is late night here on the East Coast. Yes, that's right. Coast to coast. George Norrie. Remember that. Coast to coast with George Norrie. John B. Wells was on the program for a while. We've appeared on John B. Wells' program. So, yeah, remember that. Coast to coast. That was interesting stuff. Different times, folks. Different times. Welcome back. How y'all doing? We're going to talk tonight about U.S. politics. Talk about South Africa, of course. But we're going to get launched in here to the U.S. politics because the internet ain't real life. That is the truth. You got it right there. That is well stated by none other than Tom McDonald. Let me say hello to folks in the chat before we get going. Roy Pike, welcome to Elizabeth Kruger, Hendo. Army 3275. Yes, I hope your mom is doing better. People were wishing her well on the last broadcast, mentioning last night, I think it was. I guess the timing was good then, Army, that you had to come back for your reunion. What with care for your mom. Fangwan Wannabe, welcome to you. Where can I get a copy of the PDF script? Well, it's in the Telegram group. People keep sending me messages. Folks, I'm going to ask you, please do not send messages. I am not going to send people emails of that document. I've already been, some people have taken issue with me posting that document or talking about it. But the bottom line is, had I not been ignored by a certain group of people from the U.S. government whom I ask information from, then I would have known that, I would have known what was going on. Anyway, so there you go. So I'm not going to be sending that to people. People keep asking for it. I'm not going to do that. I've put it in places where you can get to it. Then you're going to have to just join one of the groups. I'm quit making this too easy for people because I've got other issues to deal with here, and I'm not going to be involved. Look at my tulips. They were rose colored. They've turned a deep purple color there, man. Okay, some 70s rock going here with deep purple. One of them already died, and see the one in the front's dead. But look at the three. Look how tall they got all the way to Australia. They actually grew up quite a bit there in the end. Wow. Yeah, so please stop asking for that stuff. Join the Telegram group and get it for free. It's there if you want it. Otherwise, I'm getting people sending me. I've gotten at least 150 emails today of people asking me to email. I'm not going to email you that. No, because I'm not getting involved in that. Again, this was a courtesy, and I'm not going to get drawn into legal issues with people in South Africa. You may think it's a simple thing to send someone, but then if you start sending this thing to people, that people accuse you of things, I'm not getting involved in that. I didn't prepare the document. All I did was put a disclaimer on there saying that it was no one's official position. It's simply a guideline. That's all. It's a check sheet, a cheat sheet. I called it a crib sheet. It says it right there. And so please, if you want a copy of that, you're going to have to join the Telegram group. It's as simple as that. Yep. Unless we have someone who will post it somewhere. But I am not getting involved in that. South African Coalition. Minister backs land expropriation for growth. Always about the money. I have no idea what that is. Where you find that? What is an equality in African coalition minister? Never heard of such a thing. Hello, Thomas Holmes. Elizabeth Kruger, hello, how are you? You made a mistake. Well, that's very ominous, Kruger. What kind of mistake did you make? Don't share it. Voted to enshrine ID. Yes, thank you. Baki and Terry, that's the real news out of Wisconsin. The news that the left is running tonight is that the leftists won the Supreme Court race. That's not a surprise in Wisconsin. What is a surprise is that voter ID was approved in Wisconsin. So they can try their racist narrative, but even leftist states are passing voter ID. Yep. Really is a good morning, Chris. Well, up here as Florida did their part. But yes, they kept both seats, but greatly diminished victories. So these two Republicans are going to have to prove that they're the real deal so that they win by wider margins next time in deep red locations. So there'll be two more Republicans in Congress here tomorrow. So the numbers, a little bit of breathing room for the Trump administration as we go forward. Carlos Puter, welcome to you. Tercius Opperman, Chris Stender, Zender van Rensburg, Veritas, AJ Quinn, Julie. Psycho Billy says, hello, fellow Neanderthals, canine dogs, future happy, FEMA tent campers, trolls, and Rasool race baiters. I greet you in a good morning and to our favorite right-wing podcaster. Thank you, Psycho Billy. All right, Thomas Stassen, welcome to you. Yapi Brandt, Peter Wick, Bushveld Bot, Jean Spence, Gideon Maloney, Tinnis Bota, Carlos Putter, Sonia Yonka, Linziki, welcome to you. And Mau Mau, hello. Okay, Bets Corb, Hendo is here. Prince Beloy. Wow, Prince Beloy. Welcome to you. Manus Potkeeter, Jarethra, Sink Master, Claudian von Staden, Kevin Bannister. Okay. Tomahawk is back. Good to see you. Stella 4. By the way, folks, we had an epic broadcast today. It was a little hard for me to concentrate with all the noise in the background early on, but you didn't have the wind you have to worry about, so I hope that was okay. And thanks to all those who super chat. It was a very good super chat. Good way to start April off. I guess people got paid. It was nice to see some super chats come in. Not that they've been slow, but that was very nice to see. I wasn't expecting that during my lunchtime broadcast. Yep. Roy Pike says, oh, you would have missed this. Okay, well, yeah, people don't always... Shorts creator, what kind of shorts do you create? Melinda Perkins, Inkwell Odyssey, Mental Chewing Gum. I love that, Ingrid. Rian 332, Mandy van Rooyen, Ludwig Hoya, welcome to you. Grant Matt Shoes. Matt Shoes, that's cute. Hello to you. Can't cancel all of us, that's for damn sure. I tried. Sean Negros, what's going on? Good morning, Xavier. Curious, hopeful refugee. Yeah, it's in the WhatsApp group as well. But not everybody's in the WhatsApp group. That's why I don't mention it. Most of these people aren't in the WhatsApp group here because only 1,025 people can be in them. Whoa, that's loud. Turn that down a little bit there. So, all right, so I was just looking for something here very quickly. Oh, what's this? I haven't seen this one. Someone sent me something here. Oh, it's on Facebook. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, Sky News is talking about Cyril Ramaphosa, and it's the video that I've posted many, many times. So let's see what Sky News had to say about this, because someone sent this to me. I want to get to U.S. stuff. We're going to get to that, but let's go ahead and start with this, okay? So here we go. Okay, I can't hear anything.
Has resurfaced online, and here he explains, and it's crystal clear, the policy they have of confiscating land without compensation.
The question of land. The land of our forefathers and our foremothers must return to our people without any fail and without any payment of compensation. And it must happen now.
Kosha, that certainly explains why Donald Trump has decided to pull funding from South Africa. But what is the rest of the international community doing?
No, it doesn't explain why Donald Trump was pulled funding. People need to get over themselves. This is not about that. That's a piece of it. Good Lord. I mean, how much clearer we need to make. Even Sky News can't get the truth right. Even Sky News in Australia gives us fake news. That is not certainly why Donald Trump pulled funding. Donald Trump pulled funding because he pulled it from the world. Wake up, Sky News. Even Sky News can't be trusted to get the story straight. That is a piece of it. And I don't even know if that's a real video. It looks like it's AI. I've never heard Cyril utter those exact words, but I don't catch everything he says. What about African refugees? Life in South Africa. What about it, Prince Beloy? What about African refugees? Are you unhappy that the United States is no longer giving a free ride to people from the Congo, from Sudan, from Somalia, living in South Africa at U.S. taxpayer expense when the South African government has failed to pick up the bill? It is their responsibility. We don't reach out to South Africa or to Mauritius or to the United Arab Emirates to pay for refugees to come to America. We pay for that ourselves. The refugees are in South Africa. South Africa's accepted should be the expense of South Africa, not the U.S. taxpayer. But dirty little secret, the U.S. has been paying for them. We've been paying for the medicine, for their care, for their rent, stipends. Yeah, the United States taxpayer is paying Somalis to live in South Africa. Can you believe it? Yeah, well, it's true. Prince, go ahead. I'm ready for your. It looks like we got some trolling going on. We'll see. Yeah. Well, Doge uncovering millions of illegals getting Social Security numbers. I've been telling you guys that from the very beginning. Stolen Social Security numbers are a major racket, and those people steal that, illegal aliens, so they can get gainful employment. And people don't do proper checks, knowing better that the number doesn't belong to these people. Doge isn't uncovering anything that many of us that were paying attention already knew and have been complaining about for years. Maybe action will be taken against these criminals in the Social Security Administration, the employers who hire these people, and the criminals who commit these identity theft crimes. Maybe. Well, you're not going to get 500,000 people going to Wisconsin, trust me. What about African refugees' life in South Africa? What about that, Prince Beloy? I've talked about that. You have a question there? That's not much of a question. Prince Beloy says, Mr. Trump has to take African refugees too. No, he doesn't. He doesn't have to take any refugees. But we do. Isn't it funny how suddenly after 45 years of taking refugees, people of color, now for the first time, the U.S. government is looking at taking another group of people, and because they happen to have insufficient skin pigmentation, it's a concern. No, Mr. Trump doesn't have to take anybody. America doesn't have to take anybody. We're generous, and we take 30 to 150,000 refugees every year. We've been taking Africans for 45 years. I've even assisted in a refugee, well, I'm sorry, not a refugee, but in an asylum case of someone who was here legally, who applied for asylum and never went back to Africa. Now living here, someone who couldn't even speak English. That's how I got involved, because I speak French. Yeah, no, we don't have to take anybody. We can take who we want. Love that presenter. The Indian lady? Well, she can't get the facts right. All right. Let's say, Cyril Skuma, welcome to you. Well, Tom Hawk, you say so. We shall see. America is awesome because we've brought a mix of talent from all over the world, but it's largely an Anglo-Saxon country. Yep. And ever since we opened the floodgates to people from all over the world, our excellence has been diminished. Not because of people coming from around the world, and that's a problem. No, the problem is that the people we've taken in oftentimes aren't the best people to take in. Whereas the Economist praises Canada's immigration system, but Canada's immigration system is very class-oriented, very skills oriented, and it denies people who are in need the chance to go to Canada. You don't see hordes of Somalis showing up in Canada. You may see some Somalis with postgraduate degrees show up there, but you're not going to see hordes of poor people show up there. Whereas we take those people, and they're a major drag on our economy for a long time. Yeah, so. Okay, I did. Okay. Yeah, I did respond to that. I hope that helps. Elon is South African. No, he's not. He's an American. You lost him. Too bad. He's ours now. You can have Charlie's Theron back, though. I don't know that the Zulu ever sold half of KZN into the Boers. But they did make an agreement, and then Dingani reneged on it. So the stolen land myth is exactly the stolen land myth. Yep. And Trevor, no, you can have him too. That Hafji woman interviewing Joel Pollack drove me to the wall. Joel handled her questions quite good. Yeah, but he didn't get it right, Urethra. He didn't get it right, unless there was more to the interview that I didn't see. That's why I did a video. Did you watch my video, or did you watch Joel Pollack's entire thing? I didn't see it posted anywhere. I just saw a little clip. The question isn't whether the mullahs in Tehran are financing the ICJ case. That's not the case. South African taxpayers are paying for that. We have no doubt about that. That's pretty obvious. So she jumps in like she's an ANC spokesman. No, that's been thoroughly debunked. No, we are paying for that case. Who gives a flying flip, Farrell? That's not even the point. The question is, where did the ANC get the 102 million rand to pay off their party planner from 2019? Remember, folks, that in October of 2023, the sheriff, you have sheriffs in South Africa. Did you know this? The sheriff showed up at Latuli House. All the media covered it. Even News 24 covered it accurately. Yeah, they showed up to inventory all the items. One microwave on the third floor. Desk, table, chair, PCs, laptops. What are you doing? Oh, well, you owe 150 million rand, including penalties and interest, for a debt you never paid, you welching deadbeaters. So we're going to take all this stuff very soon. Off goes Naledi Pandor to Tehran. She comes back. December 2023, debt paid in full, minus the interest, 40-some million, almost 50 million rand of interest. And then just days later, in January of 2024, the ANC holds a lush, lavish, big birthday bash, the 112th birthday of the ANC at Mumbai Stadium in Nelspruit, costing 20 million, according to media reports, according to the own admission of the ANC. Who knows how much it actually cost? So that's 122 million rand. Where did the 122 million rand come from? There are no reported donations covering that dollar amount ever reported the IC. That was the question for Farrell Haffiji, not the case for the ICG being funded. No. That's what Farrell Haffiji should have been. That's the question. And why is she rubbishing that? Well, that's been debunked. It hasn't been debunked. You're just a typical leftist distracting with lies and misinformation. Seriously, Farrell. The problem is that not all of us are uninformed. Not all of us are uninformed. Costs even more than that. Yeah, I know. Charles, I said that's what's reported in the press. And that's what the ANC admitted to after they were caught with that figure. Greg Fouché, welcome to you. Jean Kotze, welcome to you. Work visa, you need a job offer to get a work visa, but you get a job offer, you have to have work visa. Well, that's not entirely accurate, but I get your point. Hello, Amerikaners. How you guys doing there? Okay. And they were unable to pay their staff, and yet they still had that. Yeah, exactly. They didn't pay their staff for a couple of years, and somehow that money came through. Anyway, so yeah, that's the question that should have been asked of Farrell Haffiji. And why is Farrell Haffiji defending the ANC? Well, it's not her position. I mean, if we're having a conversation, she said, well, look, that issue has been debunked, but not issue. No. I'm only slightly embellishing. Watch the video. Huh. Yeah. All right, let's get to the U.S. news, folks. Let's do with that. How are we doing? 259 people currently here. Be sure to hit that like button. Only 138 people have done it. So let's get over to the U.S. news. Okay, liberal wins Wisconsin Supreme Court race in a rebuke of Trump and Musk. Now, that Republican was never going to win that race. They were fooling themselves. Never going to win that race. You notice I didn't comment on this because it's of no interest to me. It's already a leftist Supreme Court in Wisconsin. We know that. Republicans are victorious in 2 congressional elections. That's what matters. Elon Musk's mass investment in a Wisconsin Supreme Court election didn't pay off after a liberal judge secured a victory that could tarnish the billionaire's political clout and trigger worry for some of the GOP about how voters are processing the opening months of Trump's administration. Now, see, that's nonsense. I mean, what kind of analysis is that? First off, this is a news report, and this is listed under news, politics, elections. But John McCormick and Anthony Del Barros, that is opinion, not news. Listed in the news section, not opinion. Not analysis, listed in news. That's not news, that's your opinion. And that's nonsense. This is not a reflection or rebuke of Donald Trump. That's the silliest thing ever. This is a race that was always going to be won by a liberal. Always going to be won by a liberal. And here's the results. And shocking, no. All the counties where Republicans are strong, they did well. In the counties where leftists live, the liberal did well, but that's where the bulk of the population is. With 93% of the vote in, 2.1 million votes cast, and that doesn't say what the percentage of vote is, the liberals will maintain their 4-3 majority on the corrupt Wisconsin Supreme Court. It's not a surprise. It's not like she won this by a whole bunch of votes. She won it by 83,000 votes out of 2 million, but that is a 9-point margin. That's pretty significant. It's 40% higher than the 2023 Wisconsin Supreme Court election. So the leftists showed up in force. Look how strong, look at this, Madison, Wisconsin. 82%. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's the entire Madison, Wisconsin, one county. One county is the entire difference and then some. She won that race by 177,000 in Madison, Wisconsin alone. That's it. And Milwaukee. In Milwaukee, she won that by 103,000. So the two counties together, more or nearly triple the difference. Those two counties out of 60-some counties in all Wisconsin. These people lose their minds. I mean, winning for Republicans in Wisconsin is a challenge. It is a challenge. It always has been a challenge because it's these freaking people from Scandinavian origin who get here and get comfortable, get fat and lazy, and start voting for Democrats and socialism. So here's the more important issue out of Wisconsin, the one that truly matters, okay? Because that didn't change the court. Wisconsin voters approve amendment requiring photo ID. The state has required voters to use photographic ID for nearly a decade, but an amendment to the Constitution was seen as making it more difficult to roll back the rule. So, Wisconsin voters approved an amendment to the state constitution to strengthen the current law requiring photo ID. Democratic leaders oppose the effort for the amendment, arguing that would disenfranchise voters, including students, older people, and particularly black voters, who bogus studies have shown are less likely to carry photo ID than white voters. That's two separate issues. Carrying photo ID and voting with photo ID, two separate issues. Lots of people don't carry ID every day. There's no law requiring us to carry identification. We're not a police state like South Africa or European countries where you must have ID on you. You don't have to have ID. You can walk around without ID. We're not a pass law country. It's not a requirement to carry ID. If police ask you for ID and they have reasonable basis to ask you for it, you have to produce it. If you don't have it, you simply explain to me you don't have it, and that's it. There's nothing. You're not required to carry ID. So walking around without ID is not a crime. Walking around without ID may be more prevalent amongst black folks because they don't want to lose their ID. But having an ID to go to vote is a very different question, and this is lying studies. They mislead people. So, and by the way, how demeaning, what soft bigotry and racism it is to claim that older people, students, and black voters don't have ID. See, students not having ID, that's a crock. That's a crock. The first photo identification I ever had in my life was a student ID at Ohio University. The first I ever had. And I got it when I was 17 years old. So this is a lie. This is once again a lie. It's New York Times running this stupid nonsense. All right, let's take a look at what really matters. The Republicans had such a slim majority in the House of Representatives, and Trump's entire effort could have been undermined by his foolish decision to take members of the House of Representatives out of the House of Representatives and put them in his administration. People like Mike Waltz, and of course Matt Gaetz. Those two races were up in jeopardy, and Democrats had a chance to win them. But in reliably strong Republican districts, all things being equal, both Republicans should have won. And both districts, both Republicans won, although by much slimmer margins than their predecessors. Matt Gaetz is a beast of interest in his district, and he would win by like 50-some points. Well, that margin was diminished greatly. Jimmy Patronis, Florida's chief financial officer, faces Gay Valamont, a Democrat and champion of tougher gun laws, to replace former Representative Matt Gaetz. Yep. So here you go. So 97,000 votes. This is a special election, folks. These are kind of like your by-elections in South Africa. And so the race has been called with 57% to 42. That's a thumping. That's a major win. And you can see the vote share here. Only in the West did Gay Valmont win, but barely there by about 2,500 votes. Here, he got trounced, 64-35, 61-36, and 73-27. But the most populous parts are here in the two center ones. So, wow. So 3 of the 4 counties were won by the Republican, and he retains that race. So if we take a look at the election results for November, when Matt Gaetz was in the race, We're going to see that Gates won 66. He got 207. Now, many more people show out for the full election. You're going to see huge numbers. 171,000 voted so far with the results in, with 95% of the votes in. Now, with 100% of the votes in, the total is 415,000. So that's a huge difference. More than twice as many people voted in the general election as they did in the special election. But Matt Gaetz got 274,000 votes, 66%. He carried all 4 counties. So that is the result. And Gabe Valmont ran against Gaetz and got beaten badly there. So 140,000 votes. So Valmont got 140,000 in November and just 72, half as many votes now, but a higher percentage. So whatever. All right, now in Florida's 6th district special election, this is on the Atlantic coast. This is a Republican State Senator Randy Fine defeated Josh Weil, a public school teacher and Democratic candidate, 6th district. That's the seat that Michael Waltz vacated to become the National Security Advisor. Randy Wine won this 57 to 43. So that's another thumping, and 110,000 to 83,000, excuse me. And compare that to November, we'll take a look at that. Again, another about 66%. So both Republicans are down, but they win, and that's what matters. It's 2 more seats. Now we'll have 2 more Republicans sitting in House of Representatives tomorrow. Congratulations. There you go. So Randy Fine wins 57%, 110,000 votes, but only 195,000 voters. Here they have 427,000, twice as many in the general election in November, and Waltz won 67% to 143,000. So Republicans retain that. The most important thing that happened in the election on Tuesday, today, or yesterday, whenever it was that today, the Republicans won those races in Florida. That's 2 more seats in the House of Representatives, and that's going to change the outlook of the House of Representatives. So now we got the House of Representatives. Let's take a look and see if they've updated this yet. So 220. It should be more now. Let me see. Looking to see if they got it. Yeah. So those 2 seats will be retained with Republicans. Okay. That was critical. So that's the most important part about the results of today's elections, that they just don't want to talk about. Okay. So let me get rid of those 2 that I don't need. Just keep the original ones there. So that's what happened with those elections. So the Supreme Court in Wisconsin, Elon Musk is welcome to spend money there. The Democrats outspent the Republicans, but all they keep talking about is Elon Musk. But Democrats outspent Republicans like 6-1 in Wisconsin in that race. Why is it white soda vineyards? Is only whites, which is costing us? No, Andre, what are you talking about? Why are white soda? What are you talking? Whites, and why the capital letter? White folks. What are you talking about? Why? Whites in the West. No, a lot of people are lazy and spoiled, and they're comfortable and fat and lazy, and they've had life handed to them. So they assume that everyone that looks like them, because they're stupid people, have had life handed to them. They're just stupid people. You don't see people who grew up in poverty, in real poverty, behaving that way. But what you're talking about, Andre, is really not germane right now. The left is being beaten down. By the way, did Moron ever end his friggin' filibuster? Cory Booker. Oh, jeez, man. Let's see what Cory Booker had to say. Is he done now? He finished his final thing? He sets a record with a marathon Senate speech. Not really. They're not calling it a filibuster, just calling it a speech. So from that standpoint, I guess it's a record. But let's see what it says. Will it rally the anti-Trump resistance? No. Nobody cares about what Cory Booker has to say. He's a fraud. In a feat of determination, New Jersey Democratic Senator Cory Booker held the Senate floor for a marathon speech that lasted all night and into Tuesday night, setting a historic mark for Democrats. He took the Senate floor Monday evening, saying he would remain there as long as he was physically able to. It wasn't until 25 hours, 5 minutes later, the 55-year-old senator, former football tight end, finished speaking and limped off the floor. It set a record for the longest continuous Senate floor speech in the chamber's history. I don't think so. It was a filibuster. It was longer than that, wasn't it? They say they're breaking the record that was set by Strom Thurmond. Okay, well, maybe it is a record. Shifting his feet, then leaning on his podium, Booker railed for hours against cuts in Social Security offices led by Trump advisor Elon Musk. Spoke about broader cuts to Social Security, even though there are no cuts to Social Security. It's another lie. He read what were letters from constituents. One writer was alarmed by the Republican president's talk of annexing Greenland and Canada and a looming constitutional crisis. There is no constitutional crisis. The constitutional crisis is the lawfare being waged against the Trump administration illicitly by corrupt judges and leftists who are filing bogus lawsuits. Yeah, Cory Booker, good riddance, buddy. I'll be glad when that guy's gone. All right. Yeah, that's the record, I guess. So he didn't pee for 25 hours. That's crazy. What's your take on the meeting between Durko and the White House? I'm going to talk about that, Vale. There was no meeting with the White House. Let's get that straight, okay? Mandy, hello to you. How do you manage these late nights just to chat with a bunch of staffers? Well, it's not just South Africans. We have people from all over the world who are in the chat. But yeah, you guys are attention-seeking, so you get all the attention. Sort of a police state. One must have an ID and driver's license. Yeah, exactly. Must have an ID at all times. Jacqueline, enjoy your day at work. Good luck with that. He beat Strom Thurmond's record from 1960s or 50s when he was raging against segregation or desegregation. Conrad Esterhuizen, welcome to you. Whose staffer got caught with a gun in what capital? What are you talking about? Yeah, it's now morning here. It's after midnight. No, hang on. I'm going to talk about that, Vale. I made a snarky comment. Stick with me, okay? So let's just start with that one, okay? Let me find. I've already had that somewhere else. So, top SA officials meet U.S. counterparts to explain controversial Expropriation Act, okay? So, let's talk about that. Peter Fabricius says delegation under DERCO Director Zane Dangor met with senior U.S. officials in the White House, State Department, Treasury. A delegation of U.S. officials has just returned, or from South Africa, has just returned to the U.S. where they briefed senior White House, State Department, and Treasury officials to clarify Pretoria's positions on controversial issues such as the Expropriation Act. The delegation was led by South African Director General of the International Relations and Cooperation, Zane Dangor. It met Director of African Studies, the National Security Council, Brenda McNamara, Acting Assistant Secretary of State for Africa, Troy Fittrell, and senior U.S. Treasury officials to address bilateral priorities and clarify key issues and misconceptions, according to Crispin Pirco, DERCO spokesman. The U.S. officials were cordial and receptive. Dangor's delegation also visited the UN General Assembly, and there you go. In Washington, Dangor's delegation directly addressed the perception, okay? So let's just be very careful here. We're going to look this up. Find in page White House. Okay? It's mentioned in the first sentence, and it's mentioned again there. And that's it. There's no one in the White House they met with. So I say fake news. And I'm sorry, Peter Fabricius, you're a very good journalist, but you don't say who they met with in the White House. So what I'm going to say is fake news. All right? You know why I'm going to say that? Because Rebecca Davies didn't have the courtesy to address me, and she fraudulently called me a right-wing podcaster. So Rebecca Davis and Daily Maverick, I'm going to call fake news. Where's the evidence that these people met with anybody in Washington, D.C.? At least AfriForum and Solidarity had a photograph of them at the White House, which Rebecca Davis claimed was a tourism photograph. You don't even have a tourism photograph here. Nothing in this story. Nothing in this story. So how do we know this even happened? How do you know you're just not making it up? I mean, that's what you said about AfriForum and Solidarity after they were accused of treason and MK lodged a criminal complaint against them for treason. Then Rebecca Davis from the Daily Maverick said they were never even there. The only proof we have in the States is they met with Joel Pollack and they went on some right-wing podcasters thing. Yeah, so, yeah. So, I mean, how do we know they met with anybody? It says they met with White House, but there's no one from the White House mentioned here. No one. Are they claiming the National Security Advisor's Office? Is that National Security Council? National Security Council doesn't work in the White House. They work in the Eisenhower office building adjacent to the White House. So that's not even true. That's not even true. Not even true. So where are the receipts? There's not even a photograph of them here with anybody. I mean, if the Daily Maverick is going to run a story claiming that AfriForum Solidarity didn't meet with people and legislators in Washington, D.C., then how can they run the story without any proof? There was at least photographs of them in the United States. A photograph of them with Joel Pollack. What the hell? How often are Hafaji and were they in love or something here? Are they kissing cousins? He's married. I assume she's married. What's this love affair with Joel Pollack and Farrell Hafaji? Did they have another conversation? So, lobby groups AfriForum Saudi have persuaded Trump officials that Afrikaan farmers are being persecuted. No, they haven't. Trump has offered them refugee status. Again, see, look, I'm sorry. This is a very good journalist, but this is only part of the picture. Again, lobby groups in AfriForum Saudi have persuaded Trump officials that Afrikaans farmers are being persecuted, and Trump has offered them refugee status in the United States. That's not true. That's not true. That is not true. Why do we have this constant nonsense? Good Lord. There is no mention of farmers in this executive order from the 7th of February. Not one. Not one mention of farmers. Not one. Not one. Man, even good journalists get this stuff wrong. Did somebody edit his story? I can't believe he got this wrong. So they say their team explained the Expropriation Act clause that allows expropriation of property without compensation in some cases was not designed to facilitate unlawful land seizures and undermine property investment. That's exactly what they're doing. Ramaphosa himself said publicly just a couple weeks ago, we went to Joburg, we were taking these buildings back because they're abandoned. They're not abandoned. The criminals chased them out. And when people tried to get court cases to kick criminals out, they were stopped because squatters have rights, but not the property owners. And now you're going to confiscate it because it's abandoned? Please. Please. And so what they did here is they were rather picky and choosy with what they told them. They picked parts of this act. Let me see. Let me find this damn thing. I got this thing here somewhere. Anyway, I know I have it, but how quickly I can find it's a question. Okay, there we go. All right, let's get back. So I can find where the language of this thing is. This is unbelievable. They just lie to people. Just lie to people left and right. So they came to America to lie to the American officials, to set us straight because we don't understand. We are misinformed. We've been hoodwinked by the AfriForum and Solidarities of the world. Now, people can read Section 25 of the Constitution. People can read the Expropriation Without Compensation Act. It's pretty simple. Not difficult to follow. Not difficult to follow. Very simple. It's all there in plain English. Here we go. Expropriation without compensation. Okay, let me find this here. Okay. So this is the... So what they're going to try to do is gaslight the world now with this nonsense, claiming that no, it's not. That's not how things are. That's not how things are. Jean Kotza, thank you for the 70 Rand super chat. Appreciate that. So they came to America to tell us that it's not things. So what did they say? They said it's not the following. Hang on a second here. They said that it's where land is not being used. The owner's main purpose is not to develop the land or use it to generate income, but to benefit appreciation market value. Well, first off, that's a problem. So what if that's true? The whole purpose of buying land or buying gold or Krugerrands or buying businesses is to grow and appreciate in value. So why is that wrong? Where does the government get off telling people they can't purchase land so you can't buy a home on the hope and sell the home because you want it to gain in value? What kind of nonsense is that? Where an organ of the state holds land that is not being used to its core functions and is not reasonably likely to acquire the land in the future. Well, why do you have to expropriate land from the state? Pokels Windbrenner. Thank you for the 71 Rand. Why do you need to expropriate land from the government that already owns it? That doesn't make any sense. Where an owner has abandoned land by failing to exercise control over it despite being reasonably capable of doing so. Who determines what's reasonably capable? Apparently, Cyril Ramaphosa says that it must have been reasonably capable for the people who were chased out of their buildings in Hillbrow to have occupied their buildings when gangsters were there and when the police refused to evict them and the government did nothing in their court case and they went bankrupt spending all their money defending themselves. That's reasonable? They're reasonably capable? No. Where the market value of the land is equivalent to or less than the present direct value of state involvement or subsidy in the acquisition of beneficial capital. Okay, that's the one. So if the market value of the land is the same as or less than the value of how much the state subsidy or investment in the acquisition of beneficial capital. What does that sentence say? So basically, you can expropriate land where the value of the land is what you determine it to be. All right, now here's the actual law. So they think we can't read. Here's the actual law, okay? Oops, that's not the actual law. Hang on. Here's the actual law. Right there. Chapter 5, Compensation for Expropriation. Okay? In determining the amount of compensation to be paid in terms of this act, not the Constitution, the expropriating authority must not, unless there are special circumstances in which it would be just and equitable to do so, take account of, right, the fact that the property has been taken without the owner's consent. So you don't have to take account of that. So in determining the amount of compensation, the expropriating authority must not take into account that the property was taken without the consent. Wow. You don't have to pay for any improvements made to the property after the date in which the expropriation notice was served. Wow. So that's the first part. And here you go. All right. It may be just and equitable for zero compensation, nil, to be paid where land is appropriated in the public interest, having regard to all relevant circumstances, including where the land is not being used. That's what they came to preach to us. Okay. Where an organ of the state holds land, notwithstanding the registration of ownership, and where the market value of the land is equivalent to or less than the present value of direct state investment. All right, so here's the bottom line, and this is why this is so wrong. And they're coming here trying to condescend, talk to U.S. officials and lie, saying they went to the White House. Well, if they went to the White House, tell us who you met. Tell us who you met. I mean, you're not a private organization. You're not at risk of being accused of treason. You represented the government. So who's going to accuse you of treason for representing the government? You did your job. So tell us who you went to see at the White House. Tell us. Come on, Daily Maverick. If they went to the White House, let's know who they talked to. That's what you said about Afro Reform and Solidarity. You just had Rebecca Davis on here 2 weeks ago going, well, they didn't go. They didn't tell us who to talk to. It was just a vacation. They clearly didn't go. All they did was talk to a right-wing podcaster. Well, this right-wing podcaster, as you claim that I am, not a university professor, not a lecturer, not a published author. Let's just go with your description, Rebecca Davis. Where are the receipts? Where is the proof that these people actually met with the White House? I see none. Not even a photograph. Not even a picture of the White House. So this is the most important part right here. And this is why this is immoral, unjust, and is a power that no state should have. All right? You'll see it in yellow here. When a court or arbitrator determines the amount of compensation in terms of Section 23 of the Land Reform Act of 1996, it may be just and equitable for nil compensation to be paid having regard to all relevant circumstances. It is never just for nil compensation unless someone's committed a crime and they have illegally acquired assets. Then you can confiscate that. But there's no just cause for this whatsoever. So let me put this in context because I think I'm the only person that's been saying this. Jean Kotza, 140 Rand. But I haven't said it for like a month and a half because we haven't focused on this. Ladies and gentlemen, who appoints the judges? Do you, the voters, vote for the judges? No, you don't. The judges are appointed by the government of the day. Judicial Service Commission. Who serves on Judicial Service Commission? Julius Malema. Yeah. Okay. So the government appoints the judges. Whom do they owe their salary to? The government that appointed them. Whom do they owe their loyalty to? The people they're supposed to represent, to the Constitution, or to the party that appointed them? To the party that appointed them. If an arbitrator is brought in, how is that arbitrator paid for? And who selects the arbitrator? Do you get a say in who the arbitrator is? No, you don't. No, you don't. Who appoints them? The government. So the government appoints the judges who adjudicate your case, or they appoint an arbitrator who adjudicates your case. So how is that even remotely fair and objective? It's a system stacked against a property owner. It is an immoral, unjust, illicit, unconstitutional situation. And for members of the South African delegation to come here and try to lecture to Americans that we don't understand your law, we understand it fully. You're thieves, you're thieves, you're thieves. And you're liars, you're liars, and you're liars. And as far as whether you went to the White House, maybe you did. But where are the receipts? If the Daily Maverick is going to run stories, lying stories, falsely claiming that Afro Reform and Solidarity didn't go to the White House with no evidence that they didn't go, then I want to see the proof that this group went to the White House, since they didn't mention anyone. We did a search of the article, folks. You saw me put in White House. It only shows up in 2 places in the article saying they went there. But then it lists the people they actually talked to at the National Security Council, which is not in the White House. Yeah. So, what are you going to say? Jean Coates, thank you for 140 Rand Super Chat. Arn Tennyson watched the Answer Roots interview on Ben Shapiro. Very rushed for me and not particularly shocking. Could it be because I'm used to the horror stories? Yeah, it was fine. I didn't have any issue with it. What do you expect him to do? Tell people about the gruesome things that are going on? That's not going to work very well in the U.S. context. It's not going to float. People need to be more introduced to it first. Veterans pension more than 2 years ago. Till today, I'm still waiting. Papers always lost. Incompetent person working patrol. Yeah, Gary Hall, I got you. Well, I asked that question of the deputy minister for Defense and Veterans Affairs, Major John Bento Holomisa. I said, because a lot of white South Africans tell me that they are denied a pension. They get no pension as SADF veterans. And I said, is that true? Or do they actually deny that? Or is it a case people just don't bother to apply for it? And he said that there has been a problem in the past, but those pensions are there for those who are in the SADF. I don't know if that's true. That's what he's saying. So, yeah. It sounds like you can't get it. You've tried. Will they accept me if I have a broken ankle? No, you can't be accepted if you have a broken ankle. Who's going to accept you where? They're just confirmed with the USA. I already knew. It's such a dumb move. It is, Charles. And the fact that it came and preached to us that during the cordial discussions, the senior officials addressed misconceptions of what was being presented by some as race laws designed to undermine minority rights. To this end, the senior officials present information which highlights the persuasive racial and structural inequality that continues to divide South Africa in all areas of the nation. See, they just don't get it. They don't get it. So the Trump administration officials said, but your laws exclude white people from and Indians and coloreds from employment, from government positions, for government tenders. Oh, yes, but that's not racial. No, that's because historical inequities, because we've screwed up the country for 31 years, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to blame it on Jan van Riebeck and Hendrik Verwoerd and apartheid. And so it's okay for us to discriminate against people who weren't even alive during apartheid because, well, just like the National Party, we're going to use our political power to harm them because, well, they have the wrong skin color. They actually made this argument before the U.S. government. I have to make a video on this. How stupid are these people? Well, the racial and structural inequality means that we can discriminate against people based on skin color. Are you serious? Are you serious? Well, yes, they are. Are you stupid? Yes, they are. Are they arrogant? Yes, they are. Do you think they were effective? No, they weren't. Idiots. Wow. They don't get it. Because your grandfather had his home taken from him and he was sent from, I don't know, someplace in Northwest or sent to wherever. It's okay for you to deny someone who's white, Indian, or colored a job or economic opportunity today, decades later. How is that even right? What kind of moral compass do people have that they think it's right to discriminate against one group of people because of the past? My ancestors were enslaved in the Caribbean because they were Irish by the English. Does that give me a claim on the British exchequer today? Do I get a check from that? No. This is ridiculous. Unbelievable. The post-apartheid administration is constitutionally mandated to correct the injustice of the past. These incentives are consistent with efforts to ensure a post-apartheid South Africa entrenches human dignity, the achievement of equality, and the advancement of human rights and freedoms, non-racialism, non-sexism, and supremacy of our constitutional rule of law. Bullshit! It does exactly the opposite. Non-racialism is exactly racist. Non-sexism, give me a frickin' break, ensures the advancement of human rights by denigrating segments of your population, minority segments at that. You were vile, repulsive to make such an argument. And the post-apartheid constitution mandates you to treat everyone the same, not selectively pick people. Unbelievable. These fools actually say this to the American administration. Well, guess what? You ain't going to get anywhere with this, man. Wow. Unbelievable. Wow. This is beyond the pale. I mean, beyond the pale. All right. Man, it's going to take a lot for me not to get fired up this morning. Here we go. All right. For some reason, I couldn't find this. Now I found it. Got a gnat flying around here. All right. So. That's not what I want. Open with Acrobat. Open Adobe Acrobat. Okay, here we go. South African Constitution, promulgated in 1996. Okay. All right, adopted October 11th, 1996. Constitution of South Africa. Okay. We, the people of South Africa, recognize the injustices of our past, honor those who suffer for justice and freedom in our land, respect those who work to build and develop our country, and believe that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, united in our diversity. We therefore, through our freely elected representatives, adopt this Constitution as the supreme law of the Republic, so as to heal the divisions of the past, lay the foundation of a democratic and open society which government is based on the will of the people, and every citizen is equally protected by law. Every citizen is equally protected by law. It's right there in the frickin' preamble. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Right there in your preamble, and you violate it. The Republic of South Africa is one sovereign democratic state founded on the following values: human dignity, the achievement of equality, advancement of human rights and freedom, by excluding segments of your population. You believe the Constitution is supremacy, yet you pass a law that violates the Constitution by expropriating property with zero compensation. Citizenship. All citizens are equally entitled to the rights, privileges, and benefits of citizenship and equally subject to the duties and responsibilities of citizenship. Yet you discriminate against your population. What a crock. What a crock. What a crock. Ananda Baker, you're missing the point entirely. You're missing the point entirely. Those stories are read by the bulk of South Africa's news reading population, and it forms their opinions. Therefore, it's necessary for someone to refute their garbage. So I don't understand, and I'm not picking on you, but I understand why people think, don't read News 24, don't read the Daily Maverick. But people read that, and an objective analyst must address the disinformation and misinformation that the media puts out. It must be refuted, otherwise it becomes a record. Obviously, most of you have never been a researcher. You're not an author. You've never gone through the archives and gone through newspapers or gone through microfilm or microfiche to look up articles and report on a story and write something after the fact, or even as it goes on. As a researcher, as a historian, as a political scientist, I've done that over and over again. You cannot allow the record to exist. For instance, 100 years from now, the story will be that Donald Trump's a racist because a bunch of journalists wrote the thing endlessly in newspapers. Video says that over and over again, but there's no evidence of it. But people believe it because it's what's said. Such things must be refuted. So for people tell me, don't read News 24, don't read the Daily Maverick, of course I have to read them. I read the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Chicago Sun-Tribune, the Atlanta Constitution Journal, the Miami Herald, the LA Times. I read all this garbage. The Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, the Guardian from the UK, the Age from Australia, all these leftist outlets, I read them. You have to refute their garbage. Someone has to do it. So I appreciate that you don't read it, but people keep making statements as if I'm wasting my time or I don't know what I'm talking about, or so not in there. I'm not. This is not you, Ananda. But people are always like give me insights like I don't know that these publications are illegitimate. Of course I know that. That's the whole point. Yeah, exactly. You can't buy anything that's depreciating in value. You can only buy something that's a static value. That's the silliest thing ever. Okay, and then Jan Kutza. I don't really care to see Candace Owens on any interview. Where are we at here? I got an invite to the interview at the embassy. I had to choose where I want to do my interview. I wanted some help and couldn't get a hold of someone when I looked again in the paper. What? Okay, I what? You got an interview. How'd you get an invitation? Through the email? You had to choose where you want to do your interview. You don't get to choose, Elizabeth. What are you talking about? It sounds like something fishy's going on here. The paper disappeared. What paper? Okay, I'm sorry, Elizabeth. You're trying to explain the situation now, but that doesn't make any sense. So you received an invitation that came in paper. Through the mail? Mail doesn't work in South Africa. Did someone hand deliver a message to you from courier? And then you were confused about where to go to a meeting. So you looked away and the paper disappeared? I'm sorry, I'm not being facetious. I don't understand what you're getting at, Elizabeth. I'm trying to help you here, but I don't understand it. There's a White House restaurant in Pretoria. Kay's Garden, welcome to you. entrenched and can sign on with contractors. We want her job back. Oh, Michael, I'm sorry to hear that. That's terrible news. Oh, here we go. Wanted to make sure if it wasn't a scam, why would it disappear so quickly? Then I contacted Americans to find out. Okay, Elizabeth. Did you receive an email, Elizabeth Kruger? And someone said meetings. If you received an email from someone that was legitimate from the embassy, it won't disappear. There won't be disappearing messages. If you received an email and it disappeared, then it's fraud. People can send disappearing messages. I don't know if you know that. You can send email messages that expire and are deleted from your server. They're self-deleting. It's possible. Very few people do it. Very few people know about it, but it's possible. Yeah, Nomvula. Hey, Angelo, you're right about that. Nomvula Monyon Kanye. Is that who we're talking about? Monyon Kanye? Is that who you're talking about? Yes, they do, Fang Wan, think the U.S. is stupid. We received a message the other day that the government is targeting white business unemployment over immigrants. Well, Val, I don't know who gave the message, but it seems to me that that may be the case based on what happened, at least in locally. It happened in Northwest to that farmer. Yep. I'm sad F and always papers disappearing. What is that? Oh, you mean when you turn papers in? Yep. Yeah, Charles, you're saying only MK vets. I that's the story I've heard for years, and I have no proof of that one way or the other. Other than vet after vet tells me they don't get a pension. My account's getting letters yesterday from government saying VAT is being increased. No increase was passed. No, that's automatic. Okay, so RG, I covered this. So if you notice that your VAT is suddenly higher now, is it April 1st or May 1st? I can't remember. But there was a legal opinion from the finance ministry. It doesn't matter. According to the amendment to the law several years back. Now, I'm not a legal expert in this, so I was shocked to find this out, but I covered this story, but it's being covered up by the media. The media actually reported, they went away from it when they were told not to report on it anymore. But according to legal experts in South Africa and people within the finance department, the mere fact that the Minister of the Treasury states there's an increase means there is an increase unless there's a law passed that removes that increase. So the budget isn't passed, and he says that's what it's going to be, then that's what it's going to be. So they're going to start taking the extra VAT either now or next month. I don't remember when it is. Yeah, I made that video a month ago, something like that. So I don't know what's going on with that. That's crazy. Been getting away with this for years now. They're used to the West ignoring the injustice. Well, that's the problem with Vikings. They're not very smart. Again, this is the phrase I've said forever. They're not good at reading the room. They don't get it. They just don't get it. Rion says, I bought land 4 years ago, worked hard for 15 years savings. No one helped me, not my forefather, and just because I'm white, I must suffer. Yep. Deep fried commie BS, says Isterfart. Did I apply for reparations? Nope, no reparations. Nope. I inherited nothing from my parents. Either one of them, when they passed away, I got nothing. And I don't want anything. I don't want anything. Now, if they'd been worth $1 billion, I would have wanted my cut. They said, should it be a man? What's this? But don't have the money. What? I have no idea what Zenda Pretorius is typing there. Take off the gloves, Colonel. Got my day started off sparked. My uncle lost 3 of his farms in the same way, and he had to even cover court costs for all that was taken away from him. That's crazy, Stoltz. No, it's not a fly. It's a gnat. There's a gnat, and there's a little bug here. For some reason, they found their way in the house. We can file for expropriation and get our historically lost property back. We lost our property worth millions due to capitalism, so I'll file for a claim. What? Go to chapter 35, read section 9. Okay. And then I'll go to another section and overturn what you just said. Chapter 35. Okay. Chapter 35. What page is that on? Oh, it doesn't tell me where chapter 35 is. That's not how it works. Chapter 1. Chapter 2. Chapter 3. Chapter 4. Chapter 6? Gee, many crickets. Chapter 14. Chapter 14. Okay. Chapter's better. There's no chapter. There's no chapter 35 of the Constitution. What are you talking about? There's no chapter 35. There's schedules, annexes, Annex A, Schedule 6, Schedule 6, Schedule 5, 3, Chapter 14. There are only 14 chapters in South Constitution. I don't know what you're talking about. There's no Chapter 35, minion. This shows context. We're not seen as people. Yeah, you're right, Kobus. No amount of evidence can convince an idiot. Yep. You're welcome, Rohan. Truth and Reconciliation is a witch hunt. Yeah. No, it was. It's a scam. The whole thing. And they held it up as an example for the world. It was an example for the world. What did Angelo say? We need to start questioning the education level qualifications of these journalists. I know a few that have doubtful matrix. Yeah, I think so. I think we need to. Someone needs to investigative journalism into the backgrounds of some of these journalists and find out if their degrees are real. You can investigate my degrees. They're real. They're real. They're earned from genuine accredited institutions. Yeah, absolutely. Ohio University, Army War College, Troy State University. You can check into those places. They're real. 1st of May. There you go. Thank you, Kathleen. That's the thing. It's 1st of April, 1st of May. It's 1st of May. Whether the law is passed or not is what they're saying. And once they got your money, if they pass the law 6 months from now, you're not going. If they rescind it, you're not going to get the money back. Okay, Elizabeth, hang on a second. Okay, Elizabeth gave an update here. Okay, hang on, Elizabeth. Your comments are all over the place. Got to find it. I was on your program reading when it just came on my screen. Okay, all right. So you didn't receive a paper. You received a message. Okay, Elizabeth. Okay. But they asked which city plan. What city, PTA or Menlo Park or Germiston, where, hang on, I'm trying to read her stuff. They then asked, do I want ID, passport, etc. I'm tried getting hold of Hendo. Disappeared, but was looking for anything. Okay, so, all right. Guys, now, what made me suspicious is they want my info, then asked what I need a passport for. Okay, all right. So, ladies and gentlemen, all right, let me help you out here. We have 309 people here tonight. God bless it. Stupid carpet's getting little divots in it. I'm falling into holes here. All right. I've done this. There's not much more I can do to help people than the following. I've said this many, many times, and I'm going to say it again. Elizabeth, this isn't direct to you. I'm getting nearly 400 people here. It's not direct to you, so don't take offense. But guys, the United States Embassy is not going to, at this stage, ask you where you want to hold a meeting. They're going to tell you where to go. All right? And right now, they're preliminary things. If you're going to get an email, it can only come from one place, from the U.S. government, not from anyone else. So there are all kinds of scams out there. I've warned people since February 7th. In the first 10 minutes I started talking about this, yet I've already talked to people who claim they've been scammed. Well, I can't help them. I can't help you if you use poor judgment. If someone sends you something, it's too good to be true. I have been offered multiple investment opportunities, not from Nigerian princes, but ones that look legitimate. But you have to have the ability to question things. I don't care how desperate you are. If you're desperate and you get hoodwinked, all people can have is empathy for you. But some people are just going to look at you with scorn. So if you had something on your screen that disappeared, then obviously it wasn't even real. This is the problem. People don't understand technology. You don't understand how your phone works or how your browser works. Things pop up. That's not real. Someone is sending you something, okay? The embassy doesn't do that. American government doesn't do that, all right? So you check into things. Over a year ago, when I renewed my security clearance, which was a big surprise to me, when I left active duty, I no longer had need for a top secret sensitive compartment information clearance facility. That's a very specialized, very unique group of people, small number of people who have access. I didn't have a need for that. I'm no longer serving. Why would I have that? So the norm is that your clearance is downgraded to a secret, just automatically. You retain it because there's no reason for it to go away, but you don't retain access. So I may have had a clearance, but I had no access to anything. So that's how things normally work. Charmaine Fenter, thank you for the 140 Rand super sticker. Appreciate that. So in November of 2023, after I had been doing consulting for 3 years with the U.S. government, I was sent a message telling me I had to go online to an account to create an account. At that link, use this code from the contractor who is paying for my investigation, and I have to submit my information for security clearance. And I'm like, whoa, stop. I have a security clearance. And they said, no, you have to renew it. I said, no, I don't. I have a secret clearance, and that's for life, unless it's taken away from me because I did something wrong. I just don't have access. I get granted access when they do a records check to make sure I haven't gotten any trouble or got arrested in the time since that was last used. And they said, no. They've now put in a new requirement that contractors, not active military or civilians in the government, but contractors must get their clearance, even if it's just a secret level clearance, reviewed every 10 years. I said, okay. So I took the information they gave me. I logged in the site, and it was a government site. And then I started filling out the paperwork. But it was very intrusive paperwork. I'm like, this isn't the sort of information you ask for security clearance for secret clearance. This is for top secret clearance. But I did it. When I finished it, I saved the file as a Acrobat, and I saved it on my drive, and I printed it out. It's like 35, 40 pages. It's a book. So then I had it. That was in November of 2023. All right? I had an election going on. I had other stuff going on. They harassed me with that nonsense, plus the war college. So come February of 2024, last year, I get a message from that contractor saying, if you don't fill out your security questionnaire, you will not be allowed to go to do your consulting at the war college next month. I'm like, what are you talking about next month? I was in March last year. I was supposed to do it in April. I said, what are you talking about? And they said, you haven't done your clearance. I said, yes, I have. No, you haven't. Yes, I have. No, you haven't. Yes, I have. And I sent them the confirmation number from the government website. And I sent them a secure copy of the actual questionnaire. And they said, oh, we never saw this. I said, well, I did it. Well, you have to do it again. Why? Well, they've changed systems now. I said, well, that's not my fault. So I had to change this. I had to go in and do it again. Okay, so let me explain what happened here. All right. I'm somebody who's been doing this forever. I'm an investigator. I'm a journalist. I'm a law enforcement official. And you see how circumspect I thought this was and how detailed I went to run it down. So after I submitted my clearance, about a month later, I received an email from the Office of Personnel Management, OPM. They're the ones who do the investigations. And then through the Office of Personnel Management to the Army. And it said that I have a clearance, top secret. Still have the same level of clearance always has. And I'm in a specialized group of people as trusted people because of decades of service that I don't have to do this ever again. I'm like, I've never heard of that program before. So I made some phone calls, checked into it. In fact, it is a program they created because they have such a backlog of security clearances that they're trusting people who've done this for a long time. Now, that's risky. People change. But anyway, and to confirm that, my colleague who works with me just got his letter a year later because his clearance was a year later. He just got a few weeks ago an email and said, hey. And I said, yeah, it's real. It's real. Anyway, the point here is that, folks, unless you're getting a letter right now saying come to the embassy in Hatfield, you should be questioning it. Lots of people are scamming people left and right. I've already pointed this out over and over again. I've gotten lots of emails. I don't have time to answer all these emails, but I've taken time to answer at least 40 or 50 emails from people explaining to them what they sent, what they received is a scam. You have people claiming that they'll get you appointments. No one can get you an appointment to go to the U.S. Embassy. You don't pay for appointments. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work. And if someone's doing that at the U.S. Embassy or consulate, then they're criminals and they need to be reported. All right? There are services that are trying to fleece money from you by getting you H-1B visas, H-2A visas, and, resident green cards and diversity lottery, and they take your money. Do not fall for it. Don't pay for anything. You're a fool being parted with your money. Don't pay for it. All right? Yeah, exactly. Ronell says it was a phishing scam trying to get you information for fraudulent purposes. Yeah, never give out your personal information. See, that's something I want to talk about earlier today because there's a lot of that going on here. First off, in social media, this is why I encourage people to use Telegram. WhatsApp your phone numbers there. And people are targeting people with WhatsApp phone numbers. So I don't know why you South Africans are so freaking stubborn and addicted and connected and in love with WhatsApp. You can't hide your phone number in WhatsApp. You can do that in Telegram. All right? So in Telegram, well, Yanni, you find me in a group that I'm in that you're in and you send me a message. Pretty simple. Look up the members of the group. Okay? So I saw your email, but your email seems very strange, Yanni, so I didn't respond to it. So where's that? Oh, yeah. So I was thinking about doing a video talking about operational security. On social media, people use their names. I use my name because I'm a public figure. Okay, I mean, if I had created an account and called myself like, you know, the skeptical, what's I'm looking for an animal begins with S, not snake. I want snake. You got cat turd. He came with that. But then, you know, it undermines your credibility. So why would I hide when I actually have credibility? So I was already a public figure in a public position when social media came along. So I was circumspect about what I did, but my identity is out there. But if you're just a person in the public, you know, why don't you just, you know, come up with a username like Isterfark or the Conscious Caracal or something like that. You can use your real name, but understand that it puts you at some risk. But more importantly, when it comes to this refugee program, I would not be writing in refugee groups with my name and my phone number in there saying, I'm going to do this. I don't care. But that's your prerogative. But you open yourself up because people, they farm those groups. People who have malicious intent join those groups, and people don't know who they are. We have no way to vet all these people. This is why I encourage people to use Telegram. Use the Telegram group. 220,000 people can go in there, and your number can be hidden. You can have a username. It's as simple as that. Yes, Blodkop is right. If you are going for a refugee resettlement interview with the U.S. government, whether it's in a leased facility in Eckerhalini or in Kempton Park at Emperor's Palace or at the consulate in one of our 4 consulate locations or wherever it may be, you will not need to send any information ahead of time. You will take your information, we'll provide it there. We have laws protecting PII, personally identifiable information. Your social security number, your passport, your date of birth, things like that. You will not be asked that stuff. So if someone is contacting you asking for that information or asking for money, it's fraudulent. How many times do I have to say this over and over and over and over again? Apparently I do, because I'm still getting emails from people almost every day who are being scammed or people who are worried about being scammed. If you're being asked for money, it is not legitimate. There is no cost to this whatsoever. No cost. Okay, let me say that in a couple languages. Es ist ja total kostenlos. Man muss überhaupt gar nichts bezahlen. Es ist frei, gratis. Nix, nein, nicht in der Bahnhof. Kostenlos. C'est la même chose avec le français. On doit payer rien, zéro. Aucun euro, aucun dollar, aucun, rien. No. You do not pay. It's free. All right, first thing. Second thing is, don't give out your personal information to anybody. Have I ever asked you for personal information? No. Except for people who are aspiring to be moderators. If you aspire to be a moderator on my channel, I have to see your conduct for a long time in chat. All right, that's the first thing. Second thing is you must identify who you actually are to me. I don't share it with people, but I need to know who you are by your real name. You also have to give me a real telephone number. And you have to give me a real email address. And I check all those, and then we do a video call. And then you can become a moderator. The exception is Arctic. I knew he was real. Because he's always in the air, you know, drinking scotch and, you know, doing live streams from flights. And so I knew he was real. Is Arctic here tonight? I haven't seen Arctic. Anyway. Pop in our electricity off. Oh, sorry, Martin. Gary Hall, please thank Mr. Trump, Mr. Musk for exposing his corrupt and thieving politicians. As green card holder and someone who went through the whole immigration process, the most important thing is to have your forms accurately filled out and read everything on the forms. Read everything. Well, Blood Coop, that's why my moderator created the cheat sheet, which I've shared with people, and we posted. Let me see if I can find it now. Where is that at? I think it's, I guess I just did that last night. Come on. Here it is. So I'm going to put this on the screen for you all to see. Well, let me go full screen with the reader. I don't know. All right, there we go. So I'll do it this way, okay? Charmaine, did you give a super chat? Oh, 140 round. Thank you. John Rudick, U.S. needs to do a better job communicating policy to its target audiences, both foreign and refugee program. John Ruddick, $5. Thank you for the $5. You think? What have I been saying for a long? And I'm a journalist, also retired colonel from the Army who worked in dozens of embassies and was assigned to 8 embassies in Africa. And I contacted the people I know at the Africa Bureau at the State Department and said, hey, I need to confirm the following. Is this actually happening? They took my phone call. They told me to send an email. I sent an email and they've never responded. 3 weeks ago. So, your point? Yes, absolutely. They knew a better job. Stupid. And because they haven't told me, my investigation has led down the road where they might not want things shared, but that's too bad. They didn't get in touch with me. They should have told me. All right, so this is the disclaimer on the document that we've put together, my moderator. This is my disclaimer. The following document is a courtesy offering compiled by one of my moderators to assist folks who may be interested in the U.S. refugee resettlement offer. Neither my moderator or I work for, nor are we affiliated in any way with the U.S. government. The purpose of these crib sheets is to assist you in compiling for your own use data which an interviewer is likely to ask you when you sit down for a refugee resettlement interview to relocate to the United States of America. This list may not be all-inclusive of the things you may be asked. Remember that the interviewer has a responsibility to ensure only qualified applicants who present no threat to Americans are allowed to enter the USA. We make no promises nor suggest the form helps you with your application. The line of questioning is one shared by a source who went for the second preliminary interview during the Department of State's March 2025 fact-finding effort in South Africa. And here you go. This is just a cheat sheet. You can put all this information down. That way you don't have to go looking for it. And these are things you're likely to be asked, okay? So that's the document. It's available in the Telegram group. It's available. Are Amerikaners still here? I think they publish it on their website. At least that's what someone told me, but I don't go to their website, so I don't know. But I'm not going to be sending it to you by email. That's unfair to ask me to send it to 35,000 people by email. That's very unfair. Jeremy Craig just described. Thank you for that. John, yeah, do you think they absolutely need to do that? He's probably flying. That's right. My wife and I had our own business, and we had to close it because of BE policies. I stroke through my wife look after me. Do we qualify? All right. So Anton Schultz. I don't know. I imagine you probably would, but I don't know. So, I mean, looking at your surname, it's German, although you've got Russian in the front, Anton, but Schultz is German, which would lead me to believe that you're an Afrikaner. Well, this program applies to Afrikaners in South Africa, not in Ireland, not in the United States, not in Japan, not in China. Afrikaners in South Africa who are victims of unjust racial discrimination. It sounds like you're a victim of unjust racial discrimination. You're an Afrikaner. The fact you had a stroke isn't germane. The fact that you lost your business because of racist policies is germane. So I should think, Anton, that you would qualify. But I haven't written the program, and we're still waiting for it. All I have to go off of is President Trump's executive order, which is very clear, except for what an Afrikaner is. It talks about people who have been denied equal opportunity in employment, education, and business, and hateful rhetoric directed against minorities. So I should think so. How did the Dems win in Wisconsin? Because it's a Democratic state, Gerard Duplessis. It's a Democratic state, or Gerhardt, not Gerard, Gerhardt. Gerhardt, it's a Democratic state. It'd be a shocker if the Republicans won that, in my view. The voter ID, because people are tired of the nonsense. It already exists there. They just reinforced it. The ANC must be stupid, insult capitalism at its core, then decide to make friends with everyone. Is anyone interested in being friends with the ANC? You're right, Trevor Main. It is laughable, but they just continue to march that way. Moving along swiftly, Liberation Day today, April 2nd. Global trade about change in a couple hours. Yeah, well, right now it's changed. It's in effect right now. John was a PSYOP specialist, so it's my wheelhouse. All right. Jan says, I just stay calm now. We'll wait until the U.S. Embassy puts out a refugee form. I'm sure they are not going to invite from emails that was sent. Well, they're not going to give you a letter. There's no way to give you a letter. There's no postal service in South Africa. Elizabeth has got the form already. Okay, it's not my form. It was created by my moderator. I've made it an Acrobat file, so you have it. And also that kind of hides the provenance of where it came from. So, yeah. So at least it should. I didn't check the data. But anyway, so you have that information. You can use it at your own discretion. I would take the form, fill it out, keep it with me, and then when I go for an appointment, have it. You know, that's just how I do things. But then, hey, that's me. Yeah, Amerikaners, on your website, I had some people complaining to me, sending me messages. I haven't seen it, so I'm just relaying to you. On your website, people were complaining about it was something to do with, you know, getting appointments, going through these organizations. My supposition was they were talking about you were giving advice on how to get a passport in South Africa, not how to get an appointment. So I got a lot going on. I didn't have time. Oh my goodness, Gareth in New Zealand is back. What about the people that were forced to immigrate because of fear? No, you won't. You won't, Gareth. The law doesn't allow for that. It doesn't allow for that. I've covered this. I'm sorry to tell you that, but so This is the law. See, isn't that funny? I have it right there. Immigration Nationality Act of 1980. So you probably can't see that very clearly. There's the law. Refugees, that's who a refugee is, okay? So, all right. So a refugee is under U.S. law. Who cares about international law and the UN? That doesn't apply here. Under U.S. law, a refugee is someone who is located outside the United States, is of special humanitarian concern to the United States, demonstrates that they were persecuted or fear persecution due to race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. And for you, Gareth, in New Zealand, this is what comes into play. You're not firmly resettled in another country. If you're living in a tent in Chad or in Uganda or Kenya, you're not firmly resettled. You're living in a refugee camp. If, however, you are South African living in Ireland, you're resettled. Now, if you're there on a temporary work visa, one can make the argument that you're still resident of South Africa, you're still subjected to this stuff, and you're only there temporarily to fulfill a work requirement. You come back, you have permanent residence in South Africa. One could make the argument that they could apply, but they're going to have to be interviewed in South Africa, not in Dublin. Micheline says, Americana's site is good other than living standards section, as you can lively see very well and cheaply. Live very well and cheaply in some states, so salaries are lower there. Don't think you need to earn a fortune. That's true. 2.5 years of license is not passing. Our business site is now canceled thanks to government. Now sitting with debt, repurchasing additional business. So they didn't renew your license, so you can't operate? Isterfark says, embassy didn't reply to me. They probably didn't like me. Well, what do you mean they didn't reply to you, Isterfark? What do you mean? What did you do? Did you send an email to the PRM address and you didn't get a response? You should have got an automated response saying they received your email. Did you write them a letter? Did you ask them questions? They're not going to respond to that. They don't have time to respond to 30,000 freaking emails from people. So help me out what you're saying there. Marissa said, I downloaded the crib sheet on WhatsApp. My husband doesn't know it yet, but he's going to fill that out. Thank you for this morning, man in the mirror, saving it's time to go pay. So I did want to do this. Don't run off. Hang on a second there, Zender. I want to play this for you guys. I put this together. So hang on a second. The whole thing with the budget, this is what I want to do. So ANC finds an ally in Action SA. They found an ally. Check it out. ANC finds ally in Action SA amid walkout threats by the D over national budget. So I thought this was an apropos thing to play for the ANC. This is something that Herman Mashab and the Action SA are singing tonight in Parliament to the ANC.
You've got a friend in me. You've got a friend in me.
Randy Newman, you got a friend in me from Toy Story. Ishet Stoltz, that's the sort of thing I wouldn't share. That's personal information. I mean, I appreciate your sending here, but I wouldn't share that. That's just saying. It's just not. I appreciate you sharing it with us, but why is my chat way behind over here? Oh, that window's YouTube. Another locked up window. Ah, boy. Okay, now here we go. Okay, there we go. Now we got all chat. I gotta get back to live chat. When was that? 12:59. Thank you for sharing that, but I've removed it, Ms. Stutz, because Ms. Stoltz, I don't want people to see that. It's trying to destroy South economy because of the ICT case. All right, Jonathan. Why? Okay. So, Jonathan, did you miss the part about where South Africa doesn't matter, Jonathan? I know you hate Israel, but apparently you hate America by extension. So this is South Africa to the U.S. Now, that's going to be used by the trolls and say, I disrespect South Africa. No, you got to put things in perspective here. Ukraine, Gaza, global tariffs, Mexico, Canada, China. South Africa is a rounding error. I mean, we spend more every hour than the total trade with South Africa in a year. Crazy. Sorry, Jonathan, it really doesn't matter. Donald Trump is not devoting energy to South Africa because of ICJ. That's a myth. Again, I don't understand why it's so difficult for people to read modern standard written English. It's right here. Purpose. Section 1. Talks about what they're doing to minorities. Then it talks about Israel, but it says aggressive positions towards the United States and its allies. Not its ally Israel, allies. Why is that word so difficult for South Africans to understand? I really don't get that. And it's allies. It's allies. It's a plural word. Okay? But rather than embarrass other allies who are affected by South Africa's behavior, he simply mentioned the case of Israel. Allies, right there. Allies. Allies. And then it talks about the ties to Iran. I don't understand why that's so difficult to follow and understand. It's not. People are being intentionally dishonest. That's the problem. Okay. All right. You like that, Xavier? Yeah. You got a friend in me. All right. Have a good day. Okay. Trump is trolling. I think he is. There's no way it can happen, Gareth. I mean, you can't do it. There's no way. The Constitution will not allow for it. He could become the vice president. One of my LMC or somebody said that's not true. And then LMC started saying it's this, it's here. I read the entire constitutional amendment that covers that. I read the secession of the president in that amendment, 22nd, and I also read where the original setup was in the Constitution. There's nothing to prevent someone from having been the president to be the vice president. I think it's foolish, but they could do it. Technically, legally, there is actually a case to be made under the amendment that limits the president to 2 terms that a vice president who has served 2 terms as president and then something happens to incapacitate the president, technically, in theory, legally, there's solid ground that person could become the president for a 3rd term or part of that term. But we're not going to go there. White South Africans are wait and see for now. Yeah, that's what they should do. Okay. The part must like Toy Story. Yeah, that's good. Wish the cowards would raise the VAT by 30% and really kick the show into gear. Prince Boy says African refugees in South Africa, the kill by South African criminal every day. Oh, Prince Boy. I think Prince Boy is saying that African refugees in South Africa are getting killed by South African criminals every day. It's not safe in South Africa. It's so sad. Okay, this time I got you, Prince, what you're saying. Well, it is sad. Xenophobia is horrific in South Africa. It's absolutely horrific. Trump is Netanyahu's little lapdog. Gosh, Jonathan. We entertain you, Jonathan, just because you've been here for a long time. At least you're consistent. Where you get your Jew hatred, I don't understand. I really don't get it. I don't understand why you hate Jews so much. It really never makes sense to me. But you don't say anything that's, that's anti-Semitic or anti-Jewish, so we let you stay. All right. I think we get more than ample information. Go watch the videos. Yep, exactly. All right. Yeah, Saragora. Trump doesn't have to do anything out there. It's collapsing on its own. So that's the other thing. Trump is attacking South Africa. He wants to collapse it. Why? Why would Trump want to collapse? I mean, it's falling of its own weight. It's falling of its own volition. South Africa's a mere pothole in the world. Well, Flux Capacitor, they're not going by surname. That's why I said you can't do that. That's like the land survey. Apparently, according to Conscious Clerical, that's how they determined who was white. They used surnames to determine, but I don't think that's true. So from the 2017 land audit. Please repeat where we get the form. Go to the Telegram group and get it from there. They're not going by surnames. Yeah, no one has said exactly, Michelin star. Thank you. Goering Fun says sends peace. Good morning to you. Stop watching Siem Dilan. Oh, I love Siem Dilan. See that morning shot mentions something of. Okay, now see, Apocalypse Ninja. Okay, first off, I have a very good relationship with Byron, and Morning Shot's a good channel, so I don't know what you want me to say here. I haven't seen any video from him. I don't have time to watch all his videos. I'm kind of busy. You're saying that he said something about temporary refugee centers, Pretoria, where they're doing applications. Well, according to the New York Times, that's the only source we have for it, which claims to have gotten information from the U.S. Department of State, illicitly, by the way. It's illegal for them to have done this. They claim in their story that they published yesterday, and I did a video on it. Again, people, okay, so, oh gosh. Oh, this just gets so tiring. Which one was that? Was it this one? Problem is that this stupid AI is picking titles for me. I don't like this. Let me see if this is the one I did on. Yeah, this is the one I did last night. Hello, folks. Welcome back. This is Chris in Central Pennsylvania. So we've seen an initial round of preliminary interviews for South Africans interested in the U.S. refugee resettlement program based on the executive order that President Trump signed on the 7th. Just realized that's the wrong one. That's the questionnaire. So that's not the one. Which one was it? Oh, here it's Mission South Africa. That's the one. View on YouTube. So this is the one right here. Okay. That's the video. Mission South Africa. You have to watch this 10-minute video. Hello, folks. Welcome back. This is Chris in Central Pennsylvania. The New York Times broke a huge story on Sunday, March 30th, 2025, with details which they obtained from a leaky State Department regarding the refugee resettlement offer for Afrikaners from South Africa. In something titled Mission South Africa, How Trump is Offering White Afrikaners Refugee Status. Well, folks, first off, they have no evidence that it's just white South Africans. That's their assumption. It's not an illegitimate assumption, but it's an assumption yet again. The New York Times is saying white, not the administration. All right, so in that video, I discussed what you're talking about, the temporary refugee centers. They're not refugee centers, they're processing centers. So the New York Times doesn't know what they're talking about, but they reported this. So I'll share this with you. Here's the link to that video. Again, folks, please watch my videos. I'm going to, in the very near future, simply stop answering questions about refugee in these streams because people are being incredibly lazy and inconsiderate for the people who've come here to have a conversation about events and geopolitics. I've allowed a lot of it in these nighttime ones because that was kind of why we started doing the nighttime. I'm here. It is 1 o'clock in the morning. I've got to go to work at 7 o'clock. I've allowed it here, but I'm really getting to the point where we're just going to have to tune it off. I mean, constantly answering the same questions, and I'm devoting endless hours to making videos that people are simply not watching. They come here and they expect instant answers. So that is the Morning Shot thing. I don't know what that was, Morning Shot said. But the New York Times reported that the State Department team that came over was scouring the Pretoria area to lease facilities to set up temporary refugee processing centers. And of course, what is South African team? Oh, I can't go because I can't get to Pretoria. That's the only place to do it. No, no one said that. No one said that. Also, it's New York Times, so take it for what it's worth. Anyway, it's unbelievably frustrating. I'm hot full with this whole refugee thing at this point too. People's inability to listen to cogent, clear, lucid, unadulterated, unfiltered, objective, honest analysis of what's going on, and then come up with the most ridiculous allegations and claims. Well, I guess I can't do. Oh, I guess it's not for me. I'm not a farmer. There's no farmer. Read the damn frickin' executive order. Go read it, and stop with the bullshit. At some point, it has to be. A lot of these people are coming here just complaining. They're just trolling. So anyway, Apocalypse Ninja. I don't know what Morning Shot said about it because I haven't seen his video, but the New York Times reported that they're doing that. But if they are doing that, who told you they were going to do that from the very beginning, February 7th? Me. Because what people were the first night, I live in the Eastern Cape. I can't go to Pretoria. I have no money. Who said you had to go to Pretoria? Well, that's where the embassy is. Yeah, and we have a consulate in Durban, a consulate in Joburg, and a consulate in Cape Town. Why in the world would someone expect you to go to Pretoria? And I said, besides that, depending on level of interest, this may be a situation where the U.S. government has to set up places to do this. And how many times have I said that we'll probably be doing this in Emperor's Palace in Kempton Park? Only 1 million times. So if, in fact, that team came over, which I actually believe that they did, and we know they went over, they did interviews, preliminary interviews, but they went over and they started looking for places to rent that would be appropriate to do this, places that can have adequate security, adequate parking, and have adequate facilities, and at a reasonable cost where the U.S. government can do these things. I also told you they're likely to hire people to come in and augment their teams because they don't have enough people to do all these people. So they're going to hire people most likely. So it shouldn't come as a surprise. I don't know what Morning Shot said, but he's pretty straightforward. So I don't imagine he gave you fake news. Does that help, Apocalypse? Hopefully that helps. Okay. Someone needs to translate for the Afrikaans community. What, the document? No. No, Yolandi. No. No, we don't need to translate in Afrikaans. Take the time to pull out a dictionary and see what the words are. If you want refugee status, then you have to learn to, we've been bending over backwards for Congolese. Look, the Congolese guy who was in the New York Times article, oh, it's unfair that they're letting these white people come over. Coming from a guy who's already in America, who's been resettled, who's living off our Teton taxpayers' money, living here, who doesn't even have the courtesy to learn our language. He's been here for some time, and he can't speak English. He was talked to by the New York Times through someone who spoke Swahili. Jina langu ni Chris, mimi anaka Pennsylvania. Wabuzi wawili, wabuzi wawili. Yeah, no, he can't bother to speak English, and he's complaining about the Americans letting white people in the country. He thinks it's unfair. Well, it is unfair, but that's not the point. He's here, and he's complaining he would begrudge someone else coming in. Come on, man. Why are we kowtowing to someone in Swahili? Learn English. Gareth says the Constitution was amended when the president had 4-term, changed 2-term. Well, it could be changed, but you have to understand the process for changing the Constitution. That's what you have to understand. So, where are we at? That was, oh, come on. Am I that far behind in chat? Good Lord. My chat just dumped. Hey, Linda, I didn't see you there. Okay. Come on, where's it at here? It was from Gareth. Okay. If the Constitution was changed, could it be changed? Yes. But Gareth, in order to amend our Constitution, you must have a 2/3 majority in the Congress, both houses. Republicans don't have a 2/3 in the House. They don't have a 2/3 in the Senate. So it's never going to pass. So it's dead on arrival. Constitutional amendment to let Trump be president. Then, after you pass 2/3 in the House and Senate, then it must go to the state legislatures. And with whatever the specified period of time, like Equal Rights Amendment was given 10 years, but it's had 50 years, it's given 10 years. Within a specified period of time, 75% of the state legislators must ratify the amendment. So we have 50 states. That means 38 states must take it to their legislatures. 32 states are controlled by Republicans, and the other 22 are controlled by Democrats. Therefore, there aren't 38 states that are going to ratify. So even if 66% of the House and 66% of the Senate would vote in favor of constitutional amendment to allow a 3rd term for Trump, you aren't going to get 38 states to ratify it in the next 3 years. So it's dead letter. It's never going to happen. Not going to happen. So to answer your question, Gareth, it's possible, but it's unlikely. Tragedy in Irania. A police was shot Monday evening after a fight between his wife and himself in front of a 12-year-old daughter. Irania has police? Or he's a police for SAPs? Okay, I didn't hear about this. No, there's no mention of it here. The last shooting in Irania was from 2000 that I can find. Thank you for sharing that. I didn't see that. Okay. I'm not aware of that. Madeline says, I'm sorry, I've been trying to get your list of questions, but have not been successful. I've downloaded Telegram as they told me. I'm sorry if I'm stupid. You're not stupid, Madeline. You just probably don't understand the tech. Okay. Folks, and hopefully nobody takes offense when I just try to explain to people. So, Madeline, let me help you out here, okay? You are probably not in the group where you need to go, okay? If you have Telegram, okay? So here we're going to help you out, okay? Madeline, we're going to make sure you get this, okay? Hang in there, Madeline. We're going to make sure you get this right now. Okay, so this is the group you need to go to. So click on this link, all right, on your phone, assuming you're on your phone. And then that link will take you to the Telegram group. Okay, I'm going to go to the Telegram group right now. and I'm going to see if you join us, okay? And then I'm going to make sure you can find it, okay? Now, since you're just joining, it might not be there. I might have to repost it, okay? So, Madeline, hang in there. Thank you for your patience. Where's my Telegram? I have Telegram on my desktop. So, Telegram. There he goes. Okay, so there are 1,658 members in here, okay? And a whole bunch of people just joined. Wow. Yeah, a bunch joined. Okay, here's some more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, Madeline, you've joined the group. Okay. Is the document not there, Madeline? Okay, I'm going to jump ahead in the chat here. Okay. So I'm going to reload the document in there, and I'm going to pin it to the top, okay? So anybody can find, okay? All right, so that'll make it easier. Madeline, you're not stupid. Hang in there. Okay. Okay. I just put it in there. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin this. Okay. All right, I've just pinned it to the top, okay? So the document's pinned to the top. Now you can download it. Madeline, please confirm if you got it for us, okay? Okay. Antoinette, Carney, have a good day. So Madeline, there you go. Madeline, you're in the group. I can confirm that. I saw that because it tells me you joined. Okay? But you can't comment in the group because it's only a receive mode. You can't comment there. So there it is. I've pinned that, the template. You should be able to get it. Madeline, are you here? Are you here, Madeline? Or are you looking at the document? Okay. What is a filibuster? Filibuster is when a member of the Senate speaks and never stops. By customs and standards in the Senate, when a senator gets up, they get the floor. They can talk as long as they want. A filibuster can last for hours, and that's what Cory Booker just did. He set a record for the longest one ever. But a filibuster is typically an effort to stop legislation from getting to the floor. People get tired and they leave. They don't have enough votes, and it doesn't get on the floor. So that's why I do a filibuster. They're calling Cory Booker's a filibuster, but technically it's not a filibuster because there was no legislation being proposed. He just got up and talked and wouldn't shut up. Rainier says, we sold our small gas station shop to a corporate. Government has to transfer license new owners so they can trade and we can get paid. Oh, gotcha. A lot of coloreds have European names. Yep, because they're mixed with Europeans. Warning, thanks for your content. Helps a lot. One question, if you ask, if I've been working for a U.S. company for 13 years now, requires a visa to work abroad. Huh? I don't understand your question, Yaku. Now they require some visa to work abroad. I don't understand. Fritz Visser, welcome for the subscription. Who requires a visa for work abroad? Abroad where? I don't understand. I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out what you're saying, Yaku. Who requires a visa to work where? If you're a South African working for a U.S. company in South Africa, why do you need a visa? Yeah, John says South Africa's trade with the U.S. is 3 hours of our GDP. 3 hours out of it, 365 days. Yeah. 5 hours? Okay, 5 hours. Okay. Gosh. Hey, Herman, what's going on? Amanda Stender's back. Wow, how's it going? It's funny that Joel Pollack, Helen Zilla, and Tony Leon supported the ANC. When did Helen Zilla support the ANC? During the apartheid era? When did Tony Leon support? He was always a liberal, wasn't he? Pip Jacobs, welcome you. If the U.S. does a ruling party, make a policy that play its own people. Okay, Sagora, I think what you're asking is the U.S. have a cater deployment policy. No, it's illegal. You can appoint people. There are appointed offices, sure. There's appointed political appointees. The Secretary of State, the Undersecretaries, Defense, and State are all appointments. But you can't appoint people to government bureaucracy positions. There are federal laws on hiring for bureaucracy. They have to apply and get hired. So no, we don't do cater deployment. But yes, we do have. So for instance, Brent Bozell is a political appointment. He will be Donald Trump's personal representative in South Africa. That's a political appointment. If you want to call that catered appointment, you can call it what you want. But most ambassadors are actually career State Department employees who get those positions. Soniki for y'all. Hey, Istafark. Susan De Bruyne. All of us have passports except my 88-year-old mother who has made 4 appointments for 8 a.m. in the morning. They don't help her at 3:45. Then they say, sorry, closing time, come back tomorrow. Susan, my recommendation is to find another place for your mother to get her passport, okay? Yes, people are trolling. But there's legitimate people with questions too. Tomorrow they're offline, so it goes on. Now she refused to go again. Patrick says, I don't understand people. I'm not even interested in this refugee stuff, and I understand it completely. Yep, Patrick. Hey, Kristen, what's going on? Mickey says, what questions haven't been asked yet you have thought of but haven't been mentioned yet? You're running out of things to ask me. Gareth, no, I don't. I was going to go for the Women's Rugby World Cup, but New Zealand limited who could come to the country and demanded you prove that you're jabbed, and it's none of their business whether I've been jabbed. I mean, I have plenty of shot records, and I have no problem showing my shot records. There's 5 decades of shot records, 7 books in there, including a South African one right there. It's a South African book. 7 books. There's all my immunizations for everything from freaking, anthrax to, to hepatitis to freaking, rabies, everything in there. But it's none of their damn business whether I got jabbed with the limiting people can't come in because of the scam for COVID, so I couldn't go. I had tickets for Women's World Cup in 2021. The cowards delayed it 2022. And when they did in 2022, I already had tickets for the Sevens World Cup in Cape Town, and I had tickets for the Rugby League World Cup in England, which had been postponed from 21 to 22. So I couldn't go. So I don't have any plans to come to New Zealand in the near future. It's not really on my radar. Maybe if a lot more people in New Zealand were following me, I might come. Yeah, so New Zealand's a nice place to visit, but I don't have plans to come anytime soon. It's expensive. But Australia has the World Cup coming up. Maybe I'll make a stop in New Zealand for the World Cup when I go to Australia for the World Cup. So I want to go to Australia for the British and Irish Lions series this summer, but I haven't been able to get information on it. It's also very expensive. Madeline, okay, you were successful. Okay, Madeline. And Madeline, you're not stupid. You don't have to put that in. I appreciate people being humble. There's no need to be that humble. Just don't be rude, okay? I try not to be rude to people, but when people ask a question that needs to be addressed to the greater audience, I try to address it. And I usually say it's not targeted at the person who asked the question. The queue in Durban from affairs is hectic. Yeah. I do not need an All Blacks rugby ball. Never going to happen. Never going to happen. By the way, this is that's a Women's World Cup rugby ball from Ireland. Yep, right there. And then down here on this shelf is a Sevens World Cup from Cape Town and one from San Francisco. San Francisco and Cape Town, 2017, 2020. Or 2018, 2022. Yep. All right. Amanda. All right. Oban. I agree with Lizelle. Not all of us are reincarnated. Well, Blood Cup, who says it doesn't? All right, it doesn't. We don't know. Again, this is covered multiple times. I'll deliver this one more time. It will be up to the state to determine, Department of State, who's eligible. And as I said, I think it will be extended to ethnic minorities. But that's my thoughts. Finland's Ottawa Treaty is interesting. They have already moved all wildlife hides that's on the border 200 meters inland. Yeah, well, they did probably a couple months ago because they're already planning on putting the landmines in there, the anti-personal mines. Yeah, Finland finally joined the Ottawa Convention that was from 1997. They finally joined it in 2012, and now they're backing out of it. But so did Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland last month. Oh, yeah, Blood Cup. No, you don't apologize. I've covered that thousands of times I've talked about it from the 7th on. I mean, when we read it the first time on February 7th, I said that it says Afrikaners, but it doesn't define what an Afrikaner is. I suspect, I said on February 7th, that this will be amended at some point to include ethnic minorities. But I get constantly barraged, how come color's not in there? What about English? I'm white. Doesn't say anything about white people. Doesn't say anything about white people. The order says nothing about white people or farmers. I've explained some things from your videos to my husband, and now 2 weeks later he will ask me about what the great says about something, and even search for videos to watch. That's cool. All right, Amanda, have a good day. Or Nanda, have a good day. I finally caught you on a live. Thank you for all you're doing. Well, you're very welcome, Danian Vitamund. Okay. The Hutful Bikers. Yeah, where's the Hutful Bikers been? I haven't seen the Hutful Bikers in ages. Are they still around? Oh, there he is. Okay, maybe I just missed you. How must an asylum seeker survive if he's not allowed to work in the USA? It's a very good question, Yappy. There are charities that help people out, and there are also programs that help out asylum seekers. But I'm not going to cover those programs because you can't be an asylum seeker, so it's not applicable. But it's a very good and apropos question, Yappy. Yes, because if you're not allowed to work, how can you survive if you have to wait a long time? Well, what winds up happening is they typically wind up getting exemptions or exclusions that allow these people to work. Okay, all right. Went to New Zealand in 2017. A glass of wine is $11. Yeah. Yeah, New Zealand's expensive, Joretha. It's also, it's not just expensive, but it's also a country that's a little confused. I mean, the constant hand-wringing and moaning about the Maori and Pacific and how they're discriminated against. I mean, these are the people that settled the islands and wiped out entire fauna and flora. They destroyed the landscape of New Zealand. They weren't exactly in harmony with nature. They wiped out all these different birds. They just destroyed them. Kiwis, moas, it just went on and on. Yeah, they just completely obliterated these species in short order. And then they fought with each other, internecine warfare. Then the Anglos came along and settled the place. And everywhere you go in New Zealand, it's constant moaning and bitching about, well, the Maori are not right. And the white Kiwis bend over. First off, they mix with the Maori left and right. People must enjoy the sex, between the ethnic groups here. But so many of these people are mixed. And then they complain about all the time. And then everywhere you go, everything is focused entirely on Maori. The freaking anthem is even that way. So look, it's very insane in New Zealand, where white people bend over and apologize for being white when they built the country along with Maori. And everywhere you go, virtually every town name, everywhere you go, there are these Maori names for stuff. So anyway, yeah. So people shouldn't apologize for who they are if they didn't do something wrong. That's my position. Judy Snyder's, welcome to you. (1990) our Stone Age storage facility was cleaned out. Almost all our personal documents, including immunization certificates. That's odd, Charmaine. Wow, sorry to hear that. Yeah, housing is insane in New Zealand. Yeah, no, there's no, you don't get it. No, that's not true. It's not true. Not true. Not true. They can get them. The Biden administration broke the law. Asylum seekers by law are not allowed to work. Done and dusted by law. Letter Fundamental, thank you for subscribing. By law, they're not allowed to work. An asylum seeker by law. But the Biden administration broke the law for 4 years. So no. Yeah, the haka is okay, but it's actually kind of rude and disrespectful. Okay. All right, so 423 people here, 2,800 views. Let me get back to where I was at there. So the budget deadlock, Action SA apparently has worked out a deal, which is very confusing. I don't understand this deal at all. People are telling me that the tax is approved, then the media says the tax is abated, the VAT increase. It's really confusing what's going on here. I guess we have to wait a couple days to see what's going on. Is Action SA the ANC's savior, and what does it mean for the GNU? Well, I covered this earlier today. I did a video on it, so you can go check out that video rather than me going into it now. But the ANC has got a friend in you. Yep, in Action SA. So look at Herman Mashaba. That is from the multi-party charter. I was there when he poured that glass of water. I was there. That's at Kempton Park. Emperor's Palace. That photograph. I was there. Cover or covet? So this is a lie. Donald Trump plans to launch refugee centers in Pretoria for white Afrikaners. That's a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie. So this, again, is information taken from the New York Times. This is the IOL. United States President Donald Trump has mobilized multiple teams to convert commercial office space into emergency refugee centers for thousands of white Afrikaners. Well, they would be interview centers, not refugee centers. So what they're implying is here that you're going to be staying in refugee centers. We can't do that. We don't have any sovereignty in South Africa. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And then let me see what he says whites. So let me see what he says whites. Whites. Okay, white. Okay. Yeah, here it is. It's right there. So again, this is a lie. So it's in the title, white Afrikaners. Then it's here, white Afrikaners. Then relocating white Afrikaners. Administration's focus on white Afrikaners. Certain members of the white Afrikaner minority. That's a lie. That's a lie. Show me in this executive order, Komogelo Mochela. Show me this executive order where it says white. Show me one place. Not one place to say white. It says Afrikaners. Why do you feel the need to, and if your argument is going to be, to me, Comoncello, if your argument is going to be back to me is that, well, Afrikaners are white. Well, I disagree with that. But if you're going to say that's the case, then why do you need to mention white Afrikaners? Do you see the racialization of everything? Do you see the attacks on this group of people? White Afrikaners. It's a lie. It's a lie. Wow. Wow. It's simply a lie. Yep. Yep. So there you go. More lies, more lies. I'm going to have to do a video on that. Well, the DA has lost the VAT fight, according to the Independent Online. Accused the ANC in action of betraying the country. Democratic Alliance has suffered a bloody nose after losing the fight over controversial VAT hike. Now, why is the IOL and the media happy that the DA lost that fight? Who's going to pay the price for the value-added tax increasing? Koos Becker? Johan Rupert? Patrice Motsepe? Sir Ramaphosa? No. It's going to be you, the consumer. And they're happy that the DA lost. They're just stupid people. So here's fact check by Jesse Copeland on News 24. It comes from Ground Up, whatever Ground Up is. 3 common myths about U.S. funding cuts to South Africa. Now, I love this because they actually got something correct. U.S. aid cuts only apply to South Africa. For some, the basic story about why the U.S. slashed aid to South Africa is as follows. The South African government took Israel to the International Court of Justice on charge of genocide, and separately, it passed a law that allowed for the expropriation of land without compensation. Encouraged by the lobbying effort reform, the U.S. government retaliated by terminating funding to South Africa from the Agency for International Development. The story isn't entirely false. On February 7th, President Trump issued an executive order stating the U.S. would stop providing assistance to South Africa in part because of the above reasons. But this isn't the original reason South Africa lost most of its aid funding. In fact, the executive order targeting South Africa was issued over a week after AID had already begun suspending grants in the country. And its initial reasons for doing this were entirely unrelated to South Africa's domestic or foreign policy. Instead, on January 20th, Trump issued an executive order which suspended virtually all international development funding for 90-day review. Exactly. As a result, U.S. funded organizations were forced to close their doors globally. Yep. For example, in famine-stricken Sudan, which is now facing one of the world's most violent conflicts, hundreds of U.S.-funded soup kitchens shut down. In South Africa, the most significant impact of the cuts was in drop-in centers providing HIV testing. A little over a month into the 90-day suspension period, the Trump administration said it had concluded its review. The majority of grants did not serve U.S. interests. It decided and could thus move from being paused to being permanently canceled. Thus, from late February, beneficiaries around the world began receiving termination notices. For instance, U.S.-funded organization which was supporting 350,000 HIV-positive patients across Swaziland, Tanzania, and Lesotho instantly lost all its funding. The funding cuts are not unique to South Africa, and they're not happening simply because of the expropriation, the ICG case, or the lobbying act reform. Exactly. That's exactly true. Thank you, Ground Up, whoever you are, for telling the truth. I've been saying that forever. Yep. Myth 2. PEPFAR is or was exempt from aid cuts. Shortly after Trump's executive order suspending for 90 days, the U.S. State Department released a waiver which supposedly allowed funding for certain life-saving humanitarian activities to continue. The State Department said this included provision for antiretrovirals. but the embassy's claim that services would continue wasn't true. Weeks after the waiver was issued, Spotlight and Ground Up investigated the status of several PEPFAR fund organizations that provided antiretrovirals. We found that none of them have been able to resume U.S.-funded work. That's because they couldn't figure out how to use Phoenix properly, which is the funding mechanism. It had nothing to do. The waiver was valid, but people don't know how to use Phoenix. That's not my fault. Anyway, so that's I appreciate that. There's some truth there. You got some facts for a change. What a nice concept. Is the VAT increase related to finding of SASA? You mean funding of SASA? No, it's related to just funding in general. The South African government doesn't have any money. Okay. Mickey's dad has a fish and chip shop in New Zealand. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, Charles, I know everyone said that's not what the media is reporting. The media is reporting that there is no VAT increase. So I'm confused. I only have what the media is reporting. I don't have messages from the DA. So I don't know where to go with this. I reported on this morning before the news really got into it, and I gave analysis on it, that video I did this morning. For those who haven't seen it, you can go watch my video. That would be this one here. Breaking Action Essay. Shareable link. There you go. All right, so that was this morning. I posted that. There you go. I did that at the War College with a dogwood tree in bloom behind me, which is a very beautiful dogwood tree. Hope you enjoyed that. You need to have common interests. We can disagree, but we can live with it. Okay, wanting, okay. It's a lie. That's somebody who panic for nothing. Why would we put refugees in refugee camps in the country they're running from? Exactly. See, the lies don't even make sense, folks. They don't even make sense. You'll be put in FEMA camps in America. Why? We put illegal aliens that slipped across our border. The Biden regime put them in hotels in Manhattan. Why would we put you in a FEMA camp? Val Kilmer died? No way. He was in bad shape. Wow. 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 4 minutes. Wow, when was this reported? Movie star in the 80s and 90s who played everything from Batman to Doc Holliday died Tuesday, according to his daughter, Mercedes Kilmer. He was 65. Pneumonia was the cause of death. He had recovered from 2014 throat cancer that required a tracheotomy and altered his voice. Although he did play Iceman in the reprise of the Top Gun. Wow. His films made nearly $2 billion at the global box office. Born and raised in San Fernando Valley in California, he went to New York to study at Juilliard. He began the 84 comedy Top Secret, then 86 Top Gun, Batman Forever, Tombstone, The Doors, Heat. Wow. Wow. That sucks. Val Kilmer. My favorite role for Val Kilmer, honestly, I liked him in Top Gun, but my favorite role for Val Kilmer was Thunderheart was one of them, and the other one that my favorite role for Val Kilmer was The Saint. Those are my two favorite Val Kilmer movies. Wow, thank you for that, Jan. Wow. Look at the journalists writing these articles, clearly showing their own agenda instead of reporting facts. Exactly. What's your opinion about Living Islands Settlement Program of Ireland? Vaynant Bezaidenhart, are you talking about moving to like Aran Island because nobody's there and they let you come there? Well, I think it's great, except that you're going to live in an isolated place. Aran Island's beautiful. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Remote, isolated islands off the coast of Ireland that are depopulated. They want people to come there, so they give you get be easy to buy a house for cheap. Yeah, but understand you're in the middle of nowhere, so, but it's safe. No, I never saw that video, Mickey. April Fool's joke that stated Trump was building walls around a refugee camp in Pretoria called Trump Fontaine. That's why these things are likely to be in places like Kempton Park, Emperor's Palace, where people come to go to the movies, the theater, to gamble, to go to other meetings. That's why it'll be there. VAT increase isn't just 1%, it's 1% a repeat by the time it gets to, yep. Trump is ready to go to war with Iran for Israel, but he won't even say a word. Well, he won't say the word white because it has nothing to do with the conversation. All right, Claudine, have a good day. Have my knee. What is this? Good God, Quiz. That's terrible. No, that's a lie, Jonathan. That's fake news. Trump didn't cut funding to Columbia University and Harvard because of their support for Israel. You're lying. You're lying. Trump cut funding for Columbia and Harvard University because they're allowing Jewish students to be assaulted and beaten on campus, and are allowing a climate that's unsafe for students at the university. Not just Jews, but those who support Jews. So you're lying, Jonathan. You're welcome to chat here, but don't lie. It has nothing to do with support for Israel. They're not being asked to support Israel. That's utter nonsense. It's utter nonsense. Rentia, take care. Why are they allowed to lie like this? Because governments let them get away with it. People should sue, but it takes money to sue, Lindy. It takes money to sue. Do you know the demographics of those affected by the student program that have been cut off with this military scholarship saga? I do not, Amanda. So in the past, we've had black and white students at the War College. I remember very specifically a white lieutenant colonel who came for a colonel's position. Sonny Zede, welcome to you. And then black colonels from the SANDF. So, but that's just one program. So yeah, they don't send exclusively black students. They send white students too. And you get refugee camps and office blocks. Exactly. Next thing we'll see is printing of money and hyperinflation. We've already seen that. Didn't type clear. His first job starting in New Zealand was selling fries. He now works in plastic. Oh, gotcha. Okay, he's back in his career field. Okay. I thought he was a very good actor. Wow, Mariki chased him away. That's pretty cool. Jonathan says, I'm not anti-American. I think Elvis the coolest guy who ever lived. Well, I think he's pretty cool too. Thank you very much. I knew Elvis personally as a child. I ran around Graceland. One of the best human beings I ever met. So many students in America being deported? No. 300? Do you know how many foreign students are in America right now? Oh, my goodness. I'm going to guess, but let me make sure. I'd say at least 650,000. Number of foreign students attending U.S. universities. There are 1,100,000 foreign students currently in the United States attending our universities and colleges, and 300 have been sent back. Judy, so many students are being deported. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You sound like the Independent Online. So many students are being deported. 300 have had their visas pulled. 300. Protest is one thing, but intimidating and endangering public safety, that's completely different. That's what they're doing. 300, Judy, out of 1.1 million. The United States hosts more than 1.1 million international students at higher education institutions, reaching an all-time high. In the systemically racist country of America, we let 1.1 million people, almost overwhelmingly people of color, come here and study at our universities. Wow. Yep. Thunderheart was excellent, so was the Saint. Yeah, exactly. Do you believe in this cold fusion mumbo jumbo? That was one of the best lines ever. Signal group. Who's got a signal group? female on the Antarctic Scholarship used SS's call for help. She was being harassed. Extent she was the only pale skin. I didn't know there was only one white person. So they sent black people to Antarctica. That's interesting. World Bridger, we've probably taken a few from Eastern Europe. Probably. I know we took white refugees from Europe after the war. And we took a lot of Jews in, not nearly enough compared to what happened to them, but we took a number of Jews in during the 30s. So, yeah, we've taken refugees, but since 1980, the overwhelming majority of people, to my knowledge, are people of color who've come here. Very few white people have come here under the refugee program, which is established in 1980. Yep. Yeah, if they break the law, they need to be deported. Yeah, Lewis, not Signal, Telegram group. All right, Tracy, take care. Yeah, but Judy, 300. That's not many. You said so many. Just 300. Isterfark said we hosted 250,000 Polish orphans during World War II. I didn't know there were 9 blacks and then just a 1 white lady. Yeah. No, I know about. Okay, so I didn't know that race had never come into the story, but now that I know that there's a race in the story, maybe we should cover it, since that would explain why the media hasn't been covering it. I just closed the window that had all my articles on the Antarctic open just earlier this evening. I figured I'm not going to report on the story because nobody's interested in it. One of my viewers was upset and wrote to me about it and said, why is the media covering it? And I put a lot of research in. So let me see if I can find where that's at. Antarctic. Let me see if it's here. RSA Antarctic. On March 23rd, I started to cover the story, and I haven't gotten around to it. So I said, his behavior has escalated to a point that is deeply disturbing. One of the scientists wrote in an email. I remain deeply concerned about my own safety, constantly wondering if I might become the next victim. The story getting virtually no news coverage in South African media has South Africa's overwinter research team on edge in Antarctica. Kudos to Times Live's Bobby Jordan for breaking the story several days ago when then running a follow-up story. But he's virtually alone in covering the story inside South Africa. This is in stark contrast to abroad where Al Jazeera, The Guardian, Newsweek, NBC, and the BBC have all reported internationally on this story. A member of the South African research team that is confined for more than a year at an isolated Antarctic base was put under psychological evaluation there after he allegedly assaulted and sexually harassed colleagues. The problems first began to appear at the Sine 4 base, were reported by South Africa's Sunday Times newspaper. Yeah, so I did put notes together to make a video on this. Those are my notes. So I didn't know that there was race involved. That was interesting. I don't care about race, so I just was going to cover the story because it was odd that nobody was covering it in South Africa. Yeah. I'm watching How to Become a Tyrant. Okay. His best role is Tombstone. I didn't watch Tombstone. That doesn't interest me. Yeah, I hear there's supposed to be a big march, but we'll see if that's the case. Alrighty, guys, where are we at over here? I'm going to have to drop off here. I'm not going to make the video now. It's 1:50. I'm going to get to bed, get some sleep, and then I will probably make that video. What was I going to make the video about? Now I've forgotten. It was the story about, hang on, let me see. It was the one about Donald Trump launching. That's the one. Okay. All right. So let me just make a print of this. Print. So I got print. I went just the first page. Page 1. It's taking a long time to do it. Virtual counseling. So I went print. Yeah, I know the virtual counseling. I saw that. Print. Current. Okay. So I'll do this in the morning. Have you seen the video where they discuss the massive influx of Muslims in Europe turning previous... well, there's a lot of videos on that, Taurus. There's also videos of Muslims stopping on the Church of England and praying on their grounds. But God forbid, English people, stand on a corner opposite a mosque with the UK flag. They go to prison for that. Yep. All right. Yeah, the media does lie so much. It's really sad. Really sad. And you're welcome, Natasha, for my truthful content. It's my pleasure. But once again, let's just go back here real quick.
And in me, you got a friend in me. You got a friend in me.
From Toy Story. I don't know what BBC did that's full on Muslim. I don't know what that's all about. Okay. Okay. All right, guys, have a good one. I'm going to get some sleep. Got more consultant work tomorrow. Wednesdays with the Colonel will not occur tomorrow. Ronaldo has bumped me for Kali Creel. Damn it. Kali Creel will be on Ronaldo's channel tomorrow, and then I'll be on Thursday. All right? All right. We got rugby this weekend, and it's a critical weekend after the Stormers choked last weekend. So we'll see what happens. Actually, no, it's the Challenge Cup this weekend, I think it is, isn't it? Yeah, I think it's the Challenge Cup. And the Champions Cup. United Rugby, let me just double check here real quick. Match center. Okay, around 15 we should be on. Come on, faster. Come on, rounds. Okay, March 28th, we got that one. Round 15 is April 18th. Yeah, so now we got the Challenge Cup and Champions Cup. So I'm going to have to cover that this weekend. All right, so yeah, cool beans. All right, be sure to hit the like button, folks. Oh, by the way, for those who are just tuning in, if you want data on all my videos related to the refugee stuff, which is we're just going to start pinning this all the time at the top of the, why is it not there? Paste. There you go. So we're going to start pinning this all the time at the top, and just go watch these videos because it's becoming a bit frustrating for people who are trying to watch the content, listen to stuff. All right, Jane Smith, thank you very much. Thanks for the super chats I got, for the 519 likes, the 3,300 views. Appreciate it. And we'll catch you all later on. Cheers. See you in the morning. Bye-bye. U.S. bans firearm reloading equipment exports. Send me a link where you got that from, Jan, and I'll take a look into it. Cheers.